Chapter 185. Who could it be? The people who could get in touch with Tang Tang that morning were Lin, Yu Xiaochuan, Qi Zhigao, and Xiao Xiao. Was it from Qi Zhigao or Xiao Xiao? Qi Zhigao was absolutely impossible. It was good enough that he was not asked to pay for the maintenance of the Land Rover. Why would he be given money? Was his brain punctured? As for Xiao Xiao, thinking of Xiao Zhao's contemptuous face that day, Xiao Qin also felt that it was unlikely. Besides, why would Xiao Xiao give me money? Then there was Lin, but she was so poor. Why would she give me money? Others didn't know her family's situation, but Xiao Qin knew it clearly. It was hard to say whether she had 20,000 yuan in her family. In comparison, Yu Xiaochuan was the most likely, but it wasn't him. Was it Tang Tang herself? That was even more impossible. If it was Tang Tang's, she would just give it to me directly. She didn't need to use such a hypocritical method. Tang Tang was a straightforward person. Just like the last time she took me to the bank to withdraw money, there was no need for this. Oh, that's my mistake. You haven't given it yet. Why don't you give me some money? Xiao Qin said to Yu Xiaochuan. If you can make Tang Tang promise to be with you on the spot, I will support you. How about 500,000 yuan? As a cohabitation fund? Yu Xiaochuan hesitated and said while gritting his teeth. 500,000 yuan? Xiao Qin didn't expect that Yu Xiaochuan would really spend a lot to achieve his goal, but, compared to the value of Yu Xiaochuan, Xiao Qin still chose to refuse. Isn't it too little? It's not my character to betray my goddess for money and let her answer against her will. I'd better wait for her to agree naturally. A haze flashed in Yu Xiaochuan's eyes, but he gritted his teeth and said, 1 million. How about 1 million? He did not expect Xiao Qin to refuse. In his opinion, 500,000 was already quite a lot. Xiao Qin was really greedy. Chao Yuliang and Qin Jinping invited me to race cars. Not only did they give me a racing bonus, but they also gave me hundreds of thousands of yuan as an appearance fee. You only gave me 1 million yuan. Forget it, I don't talk to people who are insincere. Xiao Qin said and went to get his food. Then how much do you want? Yu Xiaochuan was in a hurry to break off the engagement. If Xiao Qin could give him a number, he would have to gather it even if he had to. Tang Tang's engagement would delay his engagement with the children of other aristocratic families. Recently, the Yu clan had taken a fancy to an aristocratic family from another province, and was preparing to form a marriage alliance with them. However, Yu Xiaochuan had not yet broken off the engagement. If they were to hastily form a marriage alliance, it would be disrespectful to the Tang clan and that aristocratic family from another province. When he came back, Yu Xiaochuan also came back. Yu Xiaochuan saw him and immediately said, "The money has been transferred. Look, don't forget your promise. This semester, I have been very supportive of you. Considering that we are both children of aristocratic families, and Tang Tang used to be my fiancé, this money is a gift from me to you." "Well, thank you." Xiao Qin nodded. "When there is a suitable opportunity, I will push her down and ask you to see it. This guy is really hypocritical. In order to break off the engagement, he said it was to break off the engagement. He also found a lot of reasons. He said it in a dignified manner as if it was really the case. In fact, who didn't know it in their heart?" "Ask me?" Yu Xiaochuan was stunned, but he still nodded and said, "If you have this hobby, then I can go and see it. If there was a chance to record it, then he would have even more evidence." He had no intention of releasing the video or blackmailing Xiao Qin. A gentleman like him who pretended to be upright would never do such a thing. His goal was to prove that Tang Tang had already cheated on him and that she would no longer have anything to do with him. "Okay, I'll let you know when the time comes." Xiao Qin saw the notification on his phone that 5 million had been transferred to his account. He was very happy. After Yu Xiaochuan left, he was already in the mood to eat. He was so excited that he wanted to quickly find Elder Tang and explain everything. Just a moment ago, he had secretly recorded the conversation between him and Xiao Qin. Although this conversation could be considered bragging and had no practical use, at least it was a good start, right? Plus, this matter was already set in stone. He didn't believe that Elder Tang would have any reason not to let it go. Thinking of this, Yu Xiaochuan directly drove to the Tang family manor. Just like last time, he entered the Tang family manor after the guard's notification. But this time his mood was completely different. Last time, Yu Xiaochuan was stopped by the guard and was unhappy. This time, because he was close to breaking off the engagement, he didn't care about these small details. The more he appeared to have nothing to do with the Tang family, the better. Tang Fangbai just wanted to ask Yu Xiaochuan something, but he didn't expect Yu Xiaochuan to come to him today. Tang Fangbai was old and experienced. Naturally, he knew that if he took the initiative to ask Yu Xiaochuan about something, Yu Shaochuan would definitely use it as a reason to break off the engagement to talk to Tang Fangbai. But now he took the initiative to come. Although Tang Fangbai let him in, he still didn't look enthusiastic. Shaochuan greets Elder Tang. Yu Shaochuan came to the living room and bowed politely as usual. Well, Shaochuan, I wonder why you're here today? Are you here to bring me a bowl again? Tang Fangbai smiled and said to Yu Shaochuan. His words directly brought out the question he wanted to ask, and it didn't seem abrupt. Bowl? What bowl? Elder Tang, I'm here to tell you that Shaochuan accepted $5 million from me right in front of Tang Tang. He promised to push Tang Tang down this semester. So, I'm here to figure out when we can break off the engagement. We can't hold up Tang Tang and Shaochuan's good things, right? Yu Shaochuan said with a smile. He didn't hide the fact that he gave Tang Tang money. Between him and Elder Tang, he couldn't be bothered to pretend. Both of them were sly old foxes. Plus, the fact that he gave Tang Tang money was no secret. Gave him money? Yu Shaochuan, what are you talking about? What does the money you gave him have to do with me? Elder Tang waved his hand and said, let's not talk about this for now. Let's talk about the bowl you gave me. It looks good, but it seems to come in a pair. Do you have the other one? It's useless for you to give him money, you know what I mean. Elder Tang's meaning was clear. It was useless for Tang Tang to give Shaochuan any benefits. If Tang Tang wanted to break off the engagement, he would have to give him something in return. Otherwise, why would he agree to break off the engagement? Both of them were the reincarnations of thousand-year-old vixens, so there was no need for them to be hypocritical. However, their words were full of hidden meaning. I bought that bowl. At the time, I remember there was a similar bowl in the shop, but it wasn't broken. I didn't buy it because it was too expensive, so I bought a broken one instead. Yu Shaochuan's heart skipped a beat. What was wrong with Tang Fangbai today? Why did he keep mentioning the broken bowl? Could it be that the broken bowl held some sort of secret? It was true that Tang Fangbai liked antiques. But it was just a liking. If he had something, he would research it. If not, it didn't matter. He had never shown any special preference for anything. His focus was still on his martial arts. Antiques were just a side issue. But today he mentioned the bowl twice. Yu Shaochuan didn't believe that Elder Tang would mention it twice because of a broken bowl. Wasn't he just giving himself a loophole? If he got his hands on the bowl, would he agree to break off the engagement? Chapter 186. Yu Shaochuan didn't believe that there was such a good thing in the world. He had spent a lot of effort in the past, but he didn't succeed in breaking off the engagement. If he found a broken bowl for him, he could break off the engagement? Unless the value of the bowl was beyond imagination, so Yu Shaochuan would say so. Otherwise, the bowl was simply in the restaurant. How could there be a second one? Well, if you buy me the other one, then we can talk about breaking off the engagement. After saying this, Tang Fangbai suddenly realized that he was a little too excited. When he heard Yu Shaochuan say that there was another bowl, he was a little impulsive. As a result, he agreed to break off the engagement and blurted it out. Wasn't this making Yu Shaochuan think too much? So he quickly changed his words and said, oh, you know, I've been fascinated by antiques recently. It's rare for me to have something I like very much. Anyway, you said that the thing between Tang Tang and Shaochuan is a done deal, so let's break off the engagement. However, before you break off the engagement, at least you have to do something for me, to give me psychological comfort. No problem, Grandpa Tang. Yu Shaochuan sneered in his heart. Sure enough, there was a problem. If there was no problem with the bowl, Tang Fangbai wouldn't be so impulsive with his temper. But he pretended that he didn't feel anything and said, but I don't remember what the bowl looks like. I just bought it casually. You know, I don't know anything about antiques. I'll take it out for you to see. Tang Fangbai frowned slightly, but he still turned and left the living room quickly to get the broken bowl. Looking at Tang Fangbai's back, Yu Shaochuan couldn't help but sneer. Old fox, don't you know that I'm also a little fox? After a while, Tang Fangbai returned to the living room and carefully walked in with the two broken bowls. Then he said, it's here. You have a look. If you can find the other bowl, bring it to me. I'll consider what you said. Let me see. Yu Shaochuan picked up the broken bowl and sneered in his heart. Since he was so careful, it must be something important. Moreover, he just said that if he found the other bowl, there would be no problem in breaking off the engagement. Why did he change his words so quickly? Did he change his words to consider? Perhaps he himself had realized that he had spoken out of turn. Yu Shaochuan took the two broken bowls and looked at them carefully. On the bowls there were some strange words. The words contained a lot of information and were densely packed. If one didn't look at them carefully, they would think they were patterns. In fact, when Yu Shaochuan first saw them, he thought they were patterns. But this time he took a closer look. This was not a pattern. It must be a text, but Yu Xiaochuan didn't recognize this kind of text. So Yu Xiaochuan pretended to take out his mobile phone casually and said, "I will take a picture of the bowl and the pattern. I will compare it later." Take a picture. Tang Fangbai subconsciously wanted to stop him, but he hesitated and said, "Then you take it, but don't show the picture to others. This bowl is quite precious. Don't show your wealth." "Don't worry. Who can I show it to? If I find the other bowl, I will delete it." Yu Xiaochuan said, "I don't like this thing. It takes up the memory in my mobile phone." As Yu Xiaochuan spoke, he took a picture of one of the broken bowls. When he was about to take a picture of the other side, Tang Fangbai took it back and said, "Just take a picture. The other one is about the same. I like this bowl very much. Don't break it." Okay. Yu Xiaochuan was somewhat unwilling, but Tang Fangbai had already said so. If he insisted, then there would be a problem. He could only give up and said, "Then I will pay attention to looking for it for a while." "Oh he. Okay, then you help me look for it." Tang Fangbai said, "I have to rest. Come to me if you have any news. There is basically no problem with your matter." "Okay, then I won't disturb Grandpa Tang's rest. Goodbye." Yu Xiaochuan knew Tang Fangbai's character. He wouldn't release the eagle until he saw the rabbit. However, he might not be willing to look for the other bowl now. He had to go back and carefully study the words on the bowl. After Yu Xiaochuan left, Tang Fangbai couldn't wait to carefully put away the 2 broken bowls and then took them to his practice room. Yu Xiaochuan didn't go back to school in the afternoon. Instead, he drove directly back home. He began to search on the internet. Now that the internet was more developed and convenient, it was relatively easy to find out what words were on the bowl. After searching, Yu Xiaochuan found that the words on the bowl were written in Sanskrit, but it was not the orthodox Sanskrit. It should be a language that evolved from Sanskrit, called Devil's Text. It was mostly used to copy some of the Devil Sect's mantra. The martial artists of the famous sects might not recognize it, but those Devil Sect disciples and evil cultivators might recognize it. It was actually very easy to translate this thing. As long as he posted a Devil's Text translation commission in the Warrior Guild, he could convert the Devil's Text into the corresponding words. Moreover, he didn't need to pay too much. A level 1 mission was enough. However, Yu Xiaochuan wasn't a fool. He didn't copy the words in the order on the bowl. Instead, he messed up the words and extracted one from each word, forming a paragraph that didn't look like anything. This way, even if the translator saw it, they wouldn't know what it meant. After doing all this, Yu Xiaochuan posted a mission commission in the Warrior Guild. The mission points were 50 points. In the afternoon, Xiaochen received a message from Yi Xiaoye. "Hey, these words are a little familiar." This old man tried to fill in the blanks and realized that it's very similar to a mantra I've seen before. The Elder Heaven Ancestor suddenly said, "Fill in the blanks? Mantra? Xiaochen realized that ever since the Elder Heaven Ancestor could read his memory, all kinds of new words began to appear. What mantra? Is it powerful? Can I cultivate it? Yes, a warrior's mantra does not conflict with a cultivator's mantra. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said. The two exist independently. That means I can cultivate it? Xiaochen asked. Yes, if you want to cultivate it, you must first castrate yourself. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said. Are you talking about the sunflower treasure? Xiaochen was stunned. Don't joke around. I'm not joking. This mantra is called the chrysanthemum treasure. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said. Do you want to cultivate it? It won't affect your cultivation even if you castrate yourself. Forget it. Xiaochen was shocked and he quickly rejected the idea. Do you want me to tell you? After cultivating it, it will be very awesome. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said with a smile. I don't want to hear it. Shut up. Xiaochen said. If you dare to talk to your master like this, believe it or not, I will take over your body and control you to cultivate it. The Elder Heaven Ancestor sneered. Master, please forgive me. I still want to find a few wives and build a new family. Xiaochen smiled bitterly. I was just joking with you. Look at how scared you are. We also have this mantra, but it is an improved version. Your master had a good friend who helped to improve it. You can succeed without castration. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said. Xiaochen was speechless. He wiped his sweat and said, Then, I can cultivate it? Not yet. Your strength level is too low. You can't cultivate it. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said. All right. Xiaochen nodded and continued with the lesson. Chapter 187. As for Yu Xiaochuan, after receiving the email from Xiaochen, he was extremely excited. Word by word, he corresponded and rearranged them one by one. After working on it for the whole afternoon all the way until the evening, he finally managed to put together a seemingly awesome mantra. Chrysanthemum Treasured Book. This was the #1 incantation of the Everyday and Everyday sect, the heirloom of the sect. However, it had been lost a long time ago, leaving behind only a legend. It was said that after Zhang Naipeo disappeared, this incantation was lost along with him. Yu Shaochuan didn't think that there would be an incantation carved on a broken bowl. No wonder old Tang was so excited to get his hands on another bowl, so there was such an important secret hidden within. However, what made Yu Shaochuan unhappy was that there was only half of this incantation. The first half and the second half were still on the other half of old Tang's bowl. Or rather, this was only a quarter of it, and there was another bowl that corresponded to it. The Chrysanthemum Treasured Book was already a mythical existence. Since he was young, Yu Shaochuan had heard many wuxia stories, and they were the legends of the two incantations, as well as the bloodshed they caused in the martial arts world. Two ordinary youngsters, because of these two incantations, stood at the peak of the martial arts world. One of them was called the Art of Dragon Mastery, and the other was called the Chrysanthemum Treasured Book. There was a saying that Xianyuan would compete with the chrysanthemum. According to legend, these two incantations would appear in the martial arts world at regular intervals, and the peak of martial artists would appear. Yu Shaochuan excitedly looked at the translated words in front of him. The Chrysanthemum Treasured Book. This was the Chrysanthemum Treasured Book, a legendary existence. Did it really exist in this world? If this broken bowl had fallen into the hands of an ordinary collector, they would never have discovered the secret on it. Or that day when Lu Zhiming broke it, if Yu Shaochuan had casually thrown it away, the Chrysanthemum Treasured Book would have been destroyed, but Tang Fangbai had discovered the secret on it. Now Yu Shaochuan was sure that Tang Fangbai had definitely discovered it, or else he wouldn't have such an attitude. Should he practice it? This was a difficult decision for Yu Shaochuan, because the first sentence on the Chrysanthemum Treasured Book was, "To practice this skill, one must first castrate oneself." Yu Shaochuan didn't want to become a eunuch, otherwise, how could he get engaged with that girl from a foreign family? Furthermore, it was still unknown whether this mantra was real or not. If he castrated himself, he would not be able to cultivate it at all. That would be stupid. Therefore, Yu Shaochuan took a deep breath and placed the mantra under the drawer. He locked it up carefully. Even if he didn't cultivate it himself, he definitely couldn't let anyone else know about it. But Yu Shaochuan was worried that Tang had already practiced it. One had to be Tang. Tang was Tang 1 and FYI Fong. Tang F1 1 and 1 Tang and F. Shaking his head, he suppressed these thoughts for the time being. Yu Shaochuan was a normal person. Usually he also had desires. He would play with a small star or a young model. However, this was all done secretly and he would not let others know. After school, Xiaoqin sent a text message to Qing Minjing, telling her that Qin Jinping and Xin Jingxian were going to treat her to dinner tonight, and asking if she wanted to go. Qing Minjing had nothing to do and Xin Jingxian was here. Of course she agreed immediately. It was the most luxurious hotel near Songning No. 2 Middle School. Jean Beibei drove her golden Panamera. When they arrived at the hotel, Xin Jingxian, Qin Jinping and Chao Yuliang had already arrived. Qin Jinping and Chao Yuliang were waiting for Xiao Chen. Xin Jingxian was sitting in the car. When she saw Qing Minjing, she also got out of the car. Of course, Chao Yuliang was actually waiting for Qing Minjing. He was just showing respect to Xiao Chen. After all, he was making use of him. Wow, this car is so beautiful. Jean Beibei parked the car next to Qin Jinping's BMW X5. After getting out of the car, she walked around Qin Jinping's BMW X5. I've wanted to buy a BMW for a long time, but I don't have the money. Oh. Qin Jinping did not dare to answer. If he said something wrong, the car would not be his anymore. It was not impossible but very likely. What are you talking about? Beibei wants to buy an X5. Haven't you heard that every woman has a BMW in her heart? Jean Beibei said. I don't want to change my car. Don't exchange it with me. If you like it, you can buy one yourself. It's not expensive, just over 1 million. Qin Jinping said in a hurry. But this car is mine. Jean Beibei suddenly pointed at Qin Jinping's BMW and said. Quack. Qin Jinping's face immediately turned green. He almost fell to the ground. Jean Beibei. Don't make fun of me. This joke is not funny at all. I bought this car with my own money, but this car is really mine, isn't it, cousin-in-law? Jean Beibei turned around and looked at Xiao Chen. Yes, Beibei also had a BMW that looked exactly the same, but it was stolen later. Xiao Chen also followed Jin Beibei's words. He did not know how Jin Beibei was going to trick Qin Jinping again. However, Xiao Chen naturally sided with Jin Beibei. He also hated Qin Jinping very much. He was happy to see Qin Jinping's misfortune. Qin Jinping was extremely angry. Jingxian, Menjing, brother Liang, you are all here. Testify for me, whose car is it? I will show you the vehicle license. As he spoke, Qin Jinping took out a vehicle license from the car. He flipped it open and handed it to Jin Beibei. The most important thing for a person is to be honest. If you don't have a car, don't steal someone else's car. That's not good, Xin Jingxian said. Her words were still pleasant, but Qin Jinping seemed to have fallen into an ice house. What? Jingxian, this car is mine. Why are you defending them? Qin Jinping was anxious. He looked at Xin Jingxian in confusion. Alright, stop arguing. What's going on? Jinping, where did you get this car? Let me take a look. Chao Yuliang found that something was wrong too. If Jin Beibei said that the car was hers, it might be nonsense. But now that both Cheng Menjing and Xin Jingxian said so, something must be wrong. He wondered what Qin Jinping was arguing about. He took the license from Xin Jingxian. After a quick look at it, his face turned gloomy. Qin Jinping is such an incompetent guy. This car obviously belongs to Jin Beibei. How dare he show the license? Isn't he asking for a beating? Unless one was blind and could not read the words on the license, who could not recognize Jin Beibei's name? In Chao Yuliang's opinion, the car must have been stolen by Qin Jinping to take revenge on Jin Beibei. Also, he drove it to Chao Yuliang today to annoy Jin Beibei on purpose. Maybe he had made a fake license with his own name on it, but he took the wrong one out of anxiety and took it as the real one. Chapter 188. Of course, Chao Yuliang had never suspected that the license was fake. Qin Jinping would not have applied for a fake license in Jin Beibei's name for no reason. You stole it just because you said you stole it. Why don't you just go home and drive it yourself? Why are you showing off? Chao Yuliang was so angry that he threw the license at Qin Jinping's face. Look at it yourself. Don't do such a shameful thing next time. Why don't you return the car to her? What? Qin Jinping was dumbfounded. He picked up the license from the ground and was dumbfounded after only one look. What? It was really Jin Beibei's name on it? How was it possible? Had it been swapped by Jin Beibei just now? That was impossible. He was afraid that Jin Beibei would throw away or tear the license. He had been watching Jin Beibei all the time. Besides, Jin Beibei was not a prophet. It was impossible for her to have prepared a fake license in advance. She did not know that he would drive the car tonight, nor could she have foreseen that he would invite them to dinner at the last minute. How was it possible? Could it be that he had been a little muddle-headed recently and had accidentally used Jin Beibei's name when he registered the car's registration? It was quite possible on second thought. He was truly an idiot. It could not be helped. Qin Jinping could not defend himself. He was the one who provided the license and Jin Beibei's name was on it. What could he do? Although he was reluctant, he still gave the car key back to Jin Beibei. I'm giving it back to you. I was just kidding. If I really wanted to steal your car, would I have driven it here? You're right. I'll forgive you. I won't tell my grandpa, Jin Beibei said. Hearing this, Qin Jinping's anger rose, but he couldn't vent it. He could only spit on the ground. Thank you for being a great person and forgiving me for my wrongdoings. Jinping, that's not right. You can't spit on the ground. It's uncivilized. You have to clean it. Xin Jingxian frowned. Wipe, wipe, wipe. Qin Jinping lifted his foot and used the sole of his shoe to wipe away the phlegm. All right, everyone, let's go up. It's almost time, let's go eat. Chao Yuliang said, temporarily putting the matter behind him. When she went upstairs, Jin Beibei couldn't help but open the registration certificate of the BMW out of curiosity. However, she almost cried out when she saw it. Luckily, Jin Beibei had a good mentality because she saw the name of the owner on the registration certificate changed to Qin Jinping again. What was going on? If she was mistaken, then what about Cheng Menjing, Xin Jingxian, Chao Yuliang, and even Qin Jinping himself? That was impossible. Moreover, she had rubbed her eyes and looked at it several times, but the result was the same. Therefore, Jin Beibei was really a little surprised. She walked 2 steps slower and landed next to Xiao Qin, who was walking at the back. She said, "Cousin-in-law, did you perform magic again just now?" "Yes," Xiao Qin replied indifferently. He had indeed set up an illusion just now and changed the name of Qin Jinping's registration certificate to Jin Beibei. It was a very easy thing for Xiao Qin. Holy *T cousin-in-law, you are so awesome. Is your family artificial? Jin Beibei was extremely shocked. Isn't it too amazing? Although the magic tricks on TV were also very awesome, most of them were so realistic with special props and lighting effects. However, Xiaoqun did not use any of them. He did not even touch the registration certificate and completed the whole process of magic. Jean Bebe felt that it was really unbelievable. If Xiaoqun performed close-range magic, would he become a big star? She shook her head and said, "Your family definitely doesn't know. If they knew, they wouldn't have driven you out of the house." "It's nothing. It's just some small tricks." Xiaoqun smiled bitterly in his heart. He did not know these things when he was driven out of the house. When they came to the private room, Jean Bebe rushed to order the dishes. Although Chao Yuliang and Qin Jinping felt that they might be cheated, they did not care about the small amount of money since they had already said that they would treat them. "What about my appearance fee?" Xiaoqun sat down in an ostentatious manner and asked Qin Jinping. "Appearance fee?" Qin Jinping turned to look at Chao Yuliang. He had told Chao Yuliang before, and Chao Yuliang said that he would prepare it. "Xiaoqun, I'll give you the appearance fee next time. This time, I came directly from the school and did not bring any money," Chao Yuliang said with a smile. "Oh, then let's eat next time." Xiaoqun turned to the waiter who was ordering the dishes for Jean Bebe and said, "Waiter, take away all the dishes we ordered later." Wait. Chao Yuliang cursed Xiaoqun in his heart. How could he be so shameless after being driven out of the family? He was simply invincible. In the past, Xiaoqun would not have done such a shameful thing. However, when he thought about it, people were forced to be like this. Xiaoqun had been running around for money every day and even went to the morning market to fry fried dough sticks. It was understandable that he had become a bit unscrupulous. "What do you want?" Xiaoqun asked. Chao Yuliang took a deep breath and said, "I haven't finished yet. What I mean is, if you really want it this time, I can transfer the money to you." "I want it." "You can transfer it," Xiaoqun said. "Okay, I'll transfer it now." Chao Yuliang saw how shameless Xiaoqun was. He had no choice but to pick up his phone and prepare to transfer the money. "How much?" Chao Yuliang asked. "How about 150,000 again?" Chao Yuliang asked. 150,000 is too little. That was my price in the past. Everyone's value has risen." Xiaoqun said, "Waiter, continue to take away food." 200,000. Chao Yuliang clenched his teeth and said, "Bebe, don't order soup. It's not easy to take away food." Xiaoqun pretended not to hear him. 300,000. That's a sky-high price. Chao Yuliang said angrily. "Bebe, there's no need to take away food. Let's eat here," Xiaoqun said. *CKU. Chao Yuliang cursed in his heart. Before Xiaoqun was kicked out of the Xiao family, the confrontation between the two of them was basically a tie. Sometimes Xiaoqun was even at a disadvantage. This King Xiaoqun was kicked out of the Xiao family, and I was defeated again and again. What King reason is this? Xiaoqun's phone received a text message that 300,000 had been transferred to his account. Today he had received a total of 5,300,000 plus 50 points. He didn't know if he would be scammed when he went to buy medicine at night. "Minjing, I'm going to organize a camping trip to the beach this weekend. What do you think? You and Xiaoqun have both transferred from number 1 middle school. We're old classmates. We can get together often. It won't be strange." Chao Yuliang waited for the waiter to leave before he spoke. "The beach? Great. I like going there. Chao Yuliang, help me catch a shark. I want to eat grilled shark meat. I saw grilled shark meat on TV. It's delicious." Jean Bebe said, "Cousin Minjing loves eating shark the most." "Sharks? The area we're going to is safe. There are no sharks." Chao Yuliang calculated in his heart. Could he kill a shark with his real strength? But even if he could, it was not worth it to expose his strength to please Qing Menjing. Besides, it was very likely that he would not please Qing Menjing but Jean Bebe. However, with the support of the Qin family's resources, Qin Jinping had become a martial artist at the peak of level 2 inner force. It was not impossible for Qin Jinping to take action, but should he go to another area with sharks? But after that he would have to adjust his plan to kill Xiaoqun. If there were sharks, how could he let Xiaoqun go into the sea? Xiaoqun probably wouldn't go into the sea easily, would he? Then let's go to another area with sharks. Jean Bebe said. "Well, I'll go back and think about it. You know that it's too dangerous if there are sharks. We can't go into the sea," Chao Yuliang said. "Who will go into the sea in such a weather? Won't they freeze to death if it's so cold?" Jean Bebe said, "I'll go if you decide to go and I won't go if you don't want to. I'm planning to go shopping with cousin Minjing this weekend. It's been a long time since I went shopping." Chow Yuliang was so angry that he almost said, "If you don't want to go, then don't go. Who is willing to take you? You are so troublesome and you like to trick people. Do you think people like you because you have big breasts?" It would be better if she didn't go. But he did not dare to say it. Didn't you hear what Jean Bebe said? If she didn't go and went shopping with Cheng Minjing on the weekends, it meant that if she didn't go, Cheng Minjing wouldn't be able to go either. She was a little naughty girl who could trick people as much as she wanted. Then I'll go back and look for her? Chow Yuliang had no choice but to agree. Although the main purpose of the camping trip was to kill Xiao Chen, and the date with Cheng Minjing was secondary, if both Cheng Minjing and Jean Bebe did not go, would Xiao Chen go out with them alone? There was no need to think about it to know that it was impossible. It seemed that he could only satisfy Jean Bebe first and then figure out a way to kill Xiao Chen. Jean Bebe nodded and said, "Then I'll think about it. I won't go shopping. Let's go eat shark meat." Okay. Chow Yuliang laughed in frustration. While they were talking, the dishes were served one after another. Jean Bebe and Xiao Chen began to gorge on the food. "Cousin-in-law, this is delicious." "Okay. You should have some too." "This is delicious too." "Yes, yes." "The crab is delicious." "Yes, yes." "The abalone is delicious." Chow Yuliang and Qin Jinping were both rendered speechless. Had Xiao Chen been infected by Jean Bebe? On second thought, it was indeed the case. Both of them scammed each other. Their usual style was similar to Jean Bebe's. Were they dating? Cheng Minjing looked at Jean Bebe and Xiao Chen and simply ignored them. Cheng Minjing was basically used to the two of them. After everything was settled, Chow Yuliang was no longer in the mood to eat, especially when he was faced with Xiao Chen, the glutton who had extorted 300,000 from him. Qin Jinping was even more so. His heart ached when he saw Jean Bebe. Car. BMW. Gone again. Qin Jinping had secretly made up his mind that he would never buy a luxury car again. If he didn't buy one, he would be cheated by Jean Bebe. If he hadn't been sure that he bought the BMW X5 with his own money, he would have thought that the car really belonged to Jean Bebe. Chapter 189. Although he did not know what methods Jean Bebe had employed, he felt that he could not afford to be tricked by her again. Therefore, Qin Jinping planned to buy a second-hand minivan the next day. During the meal, he almost watched Xiao Chen and Jean Bebe eat while Xin Jingxian and Cheng Minjing whispered to each other. Chow Yuliang could not get a word in edgewise at all. He had indeed treated them for nothing. However, he comforted himself in his heart that everything would be fine as long as Xiao Chen was dead. Without Xiao Chen, Jean Bebe would not have the appetite to eat anymore. As for Xin Jingxian, he had to ask Qin Jinping to work harder and take down Xin Jingxian as soon as possible. Otherwise, if Xin Jingxian kept talking to Cheng Minjing, he would not be able to talk to her. "Minjing, how are you doing in the No. 2 middle school?" Chow Yuliang finally saw that Xin Jingxian was drinking soup and asked in a hurry, "It's fine. My family hasn't mentioned it yet. Fortunately, there isn't any in my house. I don't want to get engaged for the time being. Xiao Chen is already annoying enough. Let's talk about it later." Cheng Minjing showed enough hatred for Xiao Chen. She remembered that Chow Yuliang tried to kill Xiao Chen last time. In her eyes, as long as she pretended that she had nothing to do with Xiao Chen and hated Xiao Chen, Chow Yuliang would not lay a finger on Xiao Chen anymore. Of course, what she did not know was that it was somebody else who wanted Xiao Chen dead. After the meal, Chow Yuliang paid the bill with his card, and Xiao Chen and Jean Bebe packed a lot of delicious food. Of the two cars, Jean Bebe was still driving her Panamera, and Xiao Chen was driving the BMW X5 that he had scammed. Qin Jinping did not have a car, so he and Xin Jingxian got into Chow Yuliang's Audi A6L. "Bebe, not that I want to criticize you, but why do you look like a hungry ghost? Xiao Chen is and so are you?" After Cheng Minjing got into the car, she scolded Jean Bebe mercilessly, "Girls should be quiet. Otherwise, who would dare to marry you in the future? I think my cousin-in-law is not bad and he does not despise me. Cousin Minjing, why don't you do me a favor and ask my cousin-in-law to marry me in the future?" Jean Bebe said, not caring at all. "What does it have to do with me?" Cheng Minjing snorted. "Aren't you my cousin?" "He is my cousin-in-law," Jean Bebe said. "That was in the past. Not now. He is just my servant," Cheng Minjing said. "Even a servant has to listen to you," Jean Bebe said. "Then you must behave well. Otherwise, I won't let him marry you and nobody will want you," Cheng Minjing snorted. Okay. Jean Bebe nodded. "Then I will continue to eat like this next time." "Whatever." Cheng Minjing shook her head. Naturally, she did not take Jean Bebe's words seriously. Although old Master Jean had such intentions, Jean Bebe and Xiao Qin seemed to be pure friends. At this moment, Qing Minjing's phone rang. She glanced at it and found that it was Xiao Qin who asked her to go back first. He was going to the pharmacy to buy herbs. Xiao Qin drove the car to the entrance of the pharmacy. He stopped the car and walked in casually. Hong Yan was still reading a book. However, Xiao Qin was obviously stunned by her outfit today. Isn't this girl quite conservative? Why is she wearing such a sexy outfit today? It was not because Hong Yan was wearing revealing clothes. In fact, she was not. It was just that her clothes outlined her beautiful figure perfectly. It was hard for anyone to look away when they saw her. Has Hong Yan changed her sex? Well, I'm here to buy medicine again. Can you help me call Grandpa Qin? Xiao Qin walked into the pharmacy and coughed. He tried not to look at Hong Yan in case he felt awkward. Grandpa Qin? Hong Yan was slightly stunned. She seemed to have thought of something. She walked out from behind the counter and smiled at Xiao Qin. With a fragrant breeze she said, Grandpa Qin is not here today. He is out. Little handsome, what can I do for you? It's the same if you tell me. The girl's scent was very pleasant. Xiao Qin turned his head away in embarrassment. However, he could not help but fix his eyes on Hong Yan. It was not until he could no longer see her that he returned to normal. However, Xiao Qin's heart was beating very fast. It seemed that Hong Yan's ordinary words were full of infinite temptation and fascinated Xiao Qin. The feeling of his heart beating was the same as when he met Shen Jingxian for the first time. However, Xiao Qin was still young at that time. His mind was not very mature. It was understandable that he was fascinated by Shen Jingxian. However, the current Xiao Qin was not the same as before, whether it was his mind or willpower. He was puzzled that he still had this feeling of being moved. I'm here to buy medicinal herbs. You know my prescription. Grandpa Qin is not here. It's the same if you give it to me. Ahem. Xiao Qin coughed twice. He was very puzzled. Could it be that Grandpa Qin was not here, so Hong Yan became bold? Was she always this kind of girl on the inside? Although Xiao Qin did not want to say too much to Hong Yan, last night was the last time the medicinal herbs were decocted. Today they had to be replaced. Therefore Xiao Qin had no choice but to buy it. God knows if Hong Yan was deliberately messing with him and then took the opportunity to cheat him. Little sister forgot the prescription. Say it again, handsome. Hong Yan smiled at Xiao Qin and said in a sweet voice, there are so many people buying medicine every day. How can little sister remember it clearly? Hong Yan's every frown and smile seemed to have endless magic. Xiao Qin was almost unable to extricate himself. But fortunately, a cultivator's powerful divine sense and mental strength made him calm his mind quickly. No, this person doesn't seem to be Hong Yan. Xiao Qin's head moved slightly. The real Hong Yan had seen his prescription. Moreover, his prescription was so strange. How could she forget it? Even if there were so many people buying medicine, she should have an impression. Could it be that this little girl in front of him was an evil cultivator? She ate the real Hong Yan and Grandpa Qin and turned into Hong Yan to cause trouble here? When this thought came out, Xiao Qin himself was scared. Why was it similar to the story of Grandmother Wolf that he heard when he was young? But he had just fought with the evil cultivator a few days ago. He knew the evil and strange ability of the evil cultivator. And this Hong Yan, in front of him, was exuding an indescribable magic that attracted him. So Xiao Qin suddenly shouted at her, "You're not from here. Who are you?" As he said that, Xiao Qin suddenly took a few steps back. His whole body became alert. He secretly operated the mantra, afraid that this evil girl in front of him would suddenly launch an attack. Boring, not fun. The woman covered her mouth and laughed. Her laughter was like that of a flower's branches trembling. She was extremely flirtatious. She rolled her eyes at Xiao Qin and said, "You're quite familiar with my sister. I'm not Hong Yan. My name is Hongzhu." Hongzhu? Xiao Qin was slightly startled. So it really wasn't Hong Yan. But Xiao Qin still didn't believe her. What evidence do you have to prove that you're Hong Yan's sister? Don't tell me you ate Hong Yan and turned into her? Little handsome, you're really interesting. How can there be so many monsters in this world? Have you read too many fairy tales? When Hongzhu heard Xiao Qin's words, he immediately laughed happily. I look so much like Hong Yan that even you mistook me for someone else. Naturally, we're twins. If you don't believe me, then forget it. She'll be back tomorrow. All right, I believe you. Xiao Qin really needed to buy medicine today. Moreover, this Hongzhu didn't seem to have any intention of harming him. He just liked to joke around. So Xiao Qin told him about his prescription. You're that pervert who looked at Jean Pingmei? When Hongzhu heard the prescription, he looked at Xiao Qin in surprise. Cough cough, when did I look at Jean Ping Mei? And I'm not a pervert either. Xiao Qin smiled bitterly and blushed. From Hong Zhu's tone, it seemed that Hong Yan had told him about it. With this, Xiao Qin no longer doubted that she was a monster in disguise. I'm just joking with you. My little sister has read Jean Ping Mei before. She thinks that romance novels are all about Jean Ping Mei. In our family's library, there are only such classical romance novels and no modern romance novels. So she thinks that you're a pervert. How interesting. Hong Zhu said as he looked Xiao Qin up and down. So it's like that. I'm really wronged. Chapter 190. Accompany me to eat, drink, and sleep. Hong Zhu paused for a moment. Then you have to give me money. When Xiao Qin heard Hong Zhu's previous words, he was startled. When he heard Hong Zhu's last words, black lines suddenly appeared on his forehead. Don't trick me, then accompany me to chat. If you chat with me, I'll give you a discount, okay? Hong Zhu said. Okay, what do you want to talk about? In order to save money, Xiao Qin clenched his teeth and agreed. Anything is fine. What do you do? Hong Zhu asked. I'm a student. Xiao Qin said. You're a student? Then tell me about your school life. After Hong Zhu heard this, his eyes flashed with excitement. Okay. Xiao Qin nodded and casually told Hong Zhu about some of the things that happened in the school, such as sports day, art festival, basketball match, classes, lunch break, outing. While Xiao Qin was talking, Hong Zhu was like a curious baby, always wanting to know why. Xiao Qin still had to explain to her for a long time. It gave Xiao Qin the feeling that Hong Zhu seemed to have run out from the depths of the mountains and forests. How could he not know anything? Finally, after he finished talking about the things that happened in the school, Xiao Qin looked at the time. It was already midnight. He had to go back and boil the medicine. So he said, We've talked so much, can you give me a discount now? Oh, let me check the time. Hong Zhu took out a pocket watch, glanced at it and said, You've chatted with me for 4.5 hours. I'll give you 10,000 for an hour. I'll round it up and give you 50,000, so I'll charge you 5,250,000. Xiao Qin almost vomited blood when he heard that. He had just blabbered so much that his mouth was parched and his throat was cramping. Yet he only got a 50,000 yuan discount? This was too little. What's wrong, little handsome boy? Did I give you a big discount? Are you surprised? Hong Zhu smilingly looked at Xiao Qin, her eyes curved into the shape of crescent moons, making her look like a little kitten. She moved her face slightly closer to Xiao Qin, the fragrance of her hair causing Xiao Qin to feel infatuated and intoxicated. Xiao Qin subconsciously wanted to say that the discount was huge and that he was very satisfied. However, he was a cultivator with a strong mind after all. He coughed twice and said, In the past, Grandpa Qin and your sister Hong Yan always gave me a huge discount. The last time I bought it, I only spent a little more than 2 million. Last time was a loss. This time it's going to be the original price. Hong Zhu chuckled lightly. We can't always lose money when doing business, don't you think so, little handsome? That's still a bit expensive. I'm going to die of poverty. Xiao Qin smiled bitterly. You see, I'm just a poor student, poor as hell. Why would a poor student buy this kind of medicine? You're a disciple of the demon sect, right? Which sect are you from? Hong Zhu suddenly asked. Xiao Qin's complexion slightly changed. He never thought that Hong Zhu would suddenly ask such a question. The only one who knew of Xiao Qin's true colors and the fact that Xiao Qin had the strength to be a devil cultivator, was probably Hong Zhu. This caused Xiao Qin's heart to immediately become vigilant, and his killing intent rose slightly. Don't be nervous, little handsome boy. Do you want to kill this little sister to silence her? Hong Zhu covered his mouth and smiled, seemingly not the least bit afraid. How is that possible? Xiao Qin took a deep breath. In that instant just now, it was as if he had been possessed. The previous Xiao Qin did not have such a violent temperament, and it was impossible for him to want to kill people at the slightest provocation. Even if it was an enemy, Xiao Qin would not act like this. However, it seemed that ever since he had become a cultivator, Xiao Qin's temperament had become a little irritable. Moreover, just now, the demonic energy that had been suppressed in his body had also begun to stir. In the past, Xiao Qin only felt hatred towards himself and killing enemies that touched his bottom line. But now, he had inexplicably developed such thoughts towards Hong Zhu, causing Xiao Qin to be somewhat surprised. If you answer this little sister's question, I'll give you a discount, okay? If you answer one question, I'll give you a 10% discount, Hong Zhu said with a beaming smile. What do you want to ask? Xiao Qin took a deep breath. You're a devil cultivator, right? Hong Zhu pursed his lips, blinking as he asked. How did you know? Xiao Qin did not answer but instead asked a question of his own. Boring, you're not sincere. This little sister doesn't want to play with you anymore? Hongzhu pouted, stretched out his hand and said, give me the money, I'll give you the medicine. How about you change your question? Xiao Qin watched the discount slip away from his eyes, feeling somewhat unwilling. Fine, what are you buying these medicinal ingredients for? Hongzhu looked at Xiao Qin with a smile that was not a smile. According to this little sister's knowledge, some of these medicinal ingredients are only used by devil cultivators, although I don't understand what your prescription is for. Can I strengthen my yang? Xiao Qin smiled bitterly in his heart. Wasn't this the same F***king question as before? You. Hongzhu glanced at Xiao Qin. Do you need to strengthen your yang to practice the virgin boy technique? Xiao Qin did not know how Hongzhu saw through his inexperience, but this blatant teasing was still somewhat unbearable for Xiao Qin. This little devil girl was really hard to deal with. I'm making preparations for the future. Then continue with your preparations. Naturally, Xiao Qin could not hear the rest of Hongzhu's words. After returning home, he turned on the electric clay pot, set the time for the medicine to boil, and then sat to the side, picking up his phone and browsing through the tasks. Did you accept that task? What does he want to translate? As soon as Xiao Qin went online, he saw Yi Xiaoya's message. A bunch of strange words. Xiao Qin directly sent the things that young Master Qian wanted him to translate to Yi Xiaoya. After a while, Yi Bia replied, what are you doing not sleeping in the middle of the night? I've turned off my phone. Xiao Qin was a little speechless. Was it wrong for me to reply to her immediately? Shaking his head, Xiao Qin put down his phone and started cultivating. After Chao Yuliang sent Xin Jingxin home, he brought Qin Jinping to a private club and entered a private room. However, the two of them did not call for anyone. Instead, they only ordered some fruit plates and beer. Brother Liang, Xiao Qin has Jin Beibei messing around. It's not easy to deal with him. If we change our destination and go to the shark-infested area, Xiao Qin will not go into the water no matter how stupid he is. How can we drown him? Qin Jinping could not help but say, why don't we kill Jin Beibei as well? Kill my A***. It's not a big deal to kill Xiao Qin, but how many heads do you have to kill Jin Beibei? Won't Master Jin kill you? Chao Yuliang glared at him. But we did it secretly. Master Jin has no proof that we did it. Qin Jinping hated Jin Beibei to death. He had been tricked by her 3 times. Do you think golden-haired Lion King needs proof? Will he talk to you about proof? Chao Yuliang frowned and said casually, intelligence. Well, that's true. Recalling the dominance and unreasonableness of golden-haired Lion King, Qin Jinping immediately shut his mouth. If Jin Beibei was really dead and golden-haired Lion King killed him unreasonably, there would be nothing he could do. All right. Now that everything has come to this, let's find another way to kill Xiao Qin. Chao Yuliang waved his hands, hinting for Qin Jinping to think of a more reliable solution. Why don't we ask him to catch sharks? Qin Jinping thought for a moment and suggested. Can he go? Chao Yuliang glanced at Qin Jinping. Do you really think Xiao Qin is an idiot? If it were Xiao Qin in the old days, he might have gone after you goaded him a little. But right now, Xiao Qin is a complete scoundrel. Just like Jin Beibei, he only cares about money but not about shame. Qin Jinping thought for a moment and said, then should we pay him and ask him to go? Lin Chao said, I was called in by the old man of the Li family for questioning. He was very angry. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I told him everything that happened here. As for whether the Li family blames young Master Chao, I can't do anything about it. What? Chao Yuliang cursed his bad luck. This was really an unexpected disaster. That Li Shanpao was actually a direct descendant of the Weijiang Li family? Chao Yuliang had naturally heard of the Li family of Weijiang City. It was an ancient martial arts family that was comparable to the Xin family. They were powerful. As the grandson of the first wife of the Li family, Li Shanpao died a violent death. It would be strange if the Li family would let it go. Young Master Chao, I can only inform you. I can't help you with anything else. Not only that, senior brother Li's fiancée is also a ruthless person. She's a disciple of a big sect. I heard, she's also going to Songning City. Good luck to you. Lin Chao hung up after he finished speaking. *CK. Chao Yuliang threw the phone on the ground. It was really inexplicable. He didn't know if the Li family and Li Shanpao's fiancée would find trouble with him. Although in Songning City, the strong dragon couldn't suppress the local snake. Even the Xin family, who had a firm foothold, didn't dare to be too rash. But Chao Yuliang was really afraid that he would encounter a lunatic like the Golden Fur Lion King. Then he wouldn't be able to reason with him. What's wrong, Brother Liang? Qin Jinping noticed that Chao Yuliang's expression wasn't right, so he quickly asked. It's about the previous incident with Li Shanpao. It's not over yet. Chao Yuliang's face was gloomy. He said to Qin Jinping, he is the grandson of the first wife of the Li family. Why did he come out to race? Why is he blaming me for his death? Wasn't he killed by Xiaoqin? Can't we just blame it on Xiaoqin? Qin Jinping was stunned. He was also a little surprised. That's true, but I'm afraid that the Li family is unreasonable. If we encounter the Golden Fur Lion King, we will be finished. Chao Yuliang was so angry that he slammed the table. Qin Jinping took a deep breath after listening. When he was about to speak, Chao Yuliang's phone rang again. Chao Yuliang glanced at it. It was an unfamiliar phone number, but the caller ID indicated that it was a call from Weijiang City. Hello. Chao Yuliang picked up the phone. Chao Yuliang, is this young Master Chao? On the other side of the phone, there was a feminine male voice that made people feel uncomfortable. I am. Who are you? Chao Yuliang's heart skipped a beat. He could roughly guess the identity of the other party. Lin Chao just called to remind him, and he received a call from Weijiang City. It was really not a coincidence. Let me introduce myself. My name is Li Shaning, Li Shandiao's younger brother. On the other side of the phone, the feminine male voice introduced himself. Li Shaning? Li Shandiao. Chao Yuliang was slightly stunned. Oh, my brother uses the alias Li Shanpao outside. Li Shaning explained. It turns out to be young Master Li. Sorry for not recognizing you. Chao Yuliang said in his heart. As expected, he is from the Weijiang Li family. Young Master Chao, do you have time? How about we meet? I have already arrived in Songning City. Li Shaning said. Okay, no problem. You can come to the Chao's business club now. Just tell the waiter that you are looking for me, Chao Yuliang. Chao Yuliang said. This Chao's business club was the property of the Chao family. He was known by everyone here. No problem. See you later. Li Shaning hung up after he finished speaking. I'm coming. Chao Yuliang put down the phone and said, in a while, don't talk nonsense. Listen to me. I understand, Brother Liang. Qin Jinping replied quickly. He was so scared that he broke into a cold sweat. He didn't know how the Li family would deal with them. But thinking about it, since Li Shaning dared to come to their territory to talk to them, he shouldn't be here to fight. It was true that he didn't come with good intentions, but he certainly didn't dare to be too rash. This Li Shaning was Li Shanpao's younger brother. He shouldn't be an impulsive person. Half an hour later, the phone in the room rang. It was the lobby manager of the club who called, Young Master Chao, there is a Mr. Li Shaning looking for you. What do you think? Bring him up. Chao Yuliang said. He didn't go to greet him. Sometimes he still had to be careful. This was Songning City, not his Weijiang City. Soon the lobby manager came with Li Shaning. He knocked on the door, and a man who looked similar to Li Shanpao but was obviously more scheming came in accompanied by the lobby manager. At this time, Chao Yuliang stood up. Young Master Li, welcome. Li Shaning nodded and said, Young Master Chao, you don't have to be so polite. Let's sit down and talk. Chao Yuliang asked the lobby manager to go out first, and then sat down face to face with Li Shaning. He said, Young Master Li, let's not beat around the bush. Are you here for your brother Li Shanpao? Yes. Li Shaning nodded. I heard that my brother was invited by young Master Chao to race? It's true that I invited him to race, but Brother Ling had a car accident. I'm afraid this matter can't be blamed on me. I paid him. Chao Yuliang didn't expect Li Shaning to be so straightforward. He didn't beat around the bush and directly absolved himself of responsibility. Young Master Chao, don't get excited. In fact, everyone knows whether young Master Chao is responsible for this matter. You know it and I know it. Li Shaning waved his hand and said, but something happened to my brother. My grandfather is furious about this matter. We have to find a solution. When Chao Yuliang heard this, he knew that this second young Master Li Shaning was a sensible person. Young Master Li is right. I have always wanted to kill the murderer who killed Brother Li Shanpao and give an explanation to the Weijiang Li family. Young Master Chao is also a sensible person. I have investigated the background of you, Brother Jinping and Xiaoqin before I came. In my opinion, someone needs to stand up and give an explanation. Xiaoqin is more suitable. What do you think? Li Shaning said faintly. Yes, it is a pleasure to work with young Master Li. What do you need me to do? Chao Yuliang breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that the Li family was not willing to make a big fuss, so they sent Li Shannying to solve the problem. In fact, Chao Yuliang was wrong. Old Master Li naturally had to punish the related people, but Li Shannying was different. Li Shanpao was dead, and the biggest beneficiary was Chao Yuliang. In the past, although Li Shanpao did not do his proper work and went to race, Li Shanpao was still the first heir of the Li family. Now that Li Shanpao was dead, Li Shannying took over his brother's position. So, he was too lazy to come to Songning City to start a feud. He investigated the cause and effect and found that Xiao Chen was the most suitable scapegoat. So, he found Chao Yuliang and Qin Jinping to cooperate. Help me get rid of Xiao Chen. Of course, this is also young Master Chao's purpose. You asked my brother to race, didn't you also want to get rid of Xiao Chen? But, I want to get the results as soon as possible so that I can go back and report. Li Shannying said. Chao Yuliang did not expect things to be solved so easily. We were discussing how to get rid of Xiao Chen. The original plan was like this. As he said this, Chao Yuliang told Li Shannying about the plan that he and Qin Jinping had made before, but there was an unforeseen event in the middle. Now he and Qin Jinping did not come up with a good plan. Just in time he told it to Li Shannying for help on how to deal with Xiao Chen. Chapter 192. This is easy. At that time you can go camping normally. If you are afraid that Xiao Chen won't go fishing, you don't have to do anything on the boat. If he gets on the boat, I will drive another boat to hit him. If he doesn't get on the boat, I will find other opportunities. Li Shannying said indifferently, if it wasn't for the fact that I don't want to attract too much attention and get into trouble in Songning City, I would have personally killed Xiao Chen. Okay, no problem. With young Master Li's help, then we are in the bag. Chao Yuliang suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. If Li Shannying hit Xiao Chen into the sea, it would be even more unexpected. At that time they would have nothing to do with it. And let's do this first. Let's contact each other again. Li Shannying said this and suddenly said, my sister-in-law has come to Songning City. If she looks for you, you must make a unified statement. Just say that the car accident caused by Xiao Chen killed my elder brother. Do you understand? Otherwise don't blame me if you die. Ugh. But we don't have evidence. Chao Yuliang was stunned. This matter could be guessed, but wouldn't it be more troublesome if they couldn't find evidence if they were to talk nonsense? I have investigated. Qin Jinping, your elder brother, is called Qin Jinkuan. He died in a car accident, right? Li Shannying suddenly said. Yes, but what does it have to do with this? Qin Jinping was stunned. Before the car accident, he had a conflict with this Xiao Chen in the morning market street. Then he died in a car accident. Li Shannying sneered, can't he frame you? Just say that your elder brother also provoked Xiao Chen and was killed in a car accident designed by Xiao Chen. Okay. Qin Jinping thought about it. It was quite reasonable. Counterattack and settle the sister-in-law. Not bad. Hee, I'm optimistic about you. Li Shannying patted Qin Jinping's shoulder and said playfully. A look of desire flashed in his eyes. Qin Jinping was stunned. At this time, Li Shannying had already left the room. Looking at Li Shanying's departing figure, Chao Yuliang let out a long sigh of relief and smiled disdainfully. What the heck? I reckon that brat must be overjoyed right now. He can't even thank us enough. It's all thanks to us that he's able to rise to the top, yet he still wants to imitate you and mess with his sister-in-law. Hee. Damn, so that's what it means. Qin Jinping suddenly understood. No wonder this guy is not hostile to us. He doesn't want to avenge his brother at all. He just wants to give his family an explanation. That should be the case. However, with his help, it'll be easier for us. When Xiao Chen is dead, he can just leave. Even if old Master Jin wants to protect Xiao Chen, he won't go to Weijiang City to settle the score with the Li family. It's too far and he doesn't have the ability to do so. Chao Yuliang smiled coldly. God is helping me. 3 days passed in a flash. Xiao Chen had finished his medicinal herbs, but he still hadn't leveled up. This almost made Xiao Chen cry on the spot. Was this the rhythm of the cultivation world being poor for 3 generations? Moreover, the key problem was that Xiao Chen hadn't received a single mission in the past 3 days. He didn't earn any money either. Although there were many missions in the warrior guild, they were from all over the place. Compared to Songning City, it was impossible for there to be some high-level missions. Therefore, Xiao Chen resisted the urge to rush to the pharmacy and ask Hongzhu for the money that he had cheated away. If he still didn't have the money to buy medicine today, Xiao Chen could only think of a way to sell his points in the warrior guild. However, what surprised Xiao Qin was that he actually received a call from CFA. Hero White Fox, I'm CFA. CFA's voice was very pleasant, with a hint of laziness. In the past, Xiao Qin hated rich wives like her. They played cards and walked their dogs every day doing nothing else. However, since he knew about CFA's tragic life experience, Xiao Qin was very sympathetic towards her. The marriage of a big family had basically ruined her entire life. For the sake of the family's reputation, she couldn't get a divorce, let alone have an affair. That young Master Wang could, but she couldn't. This was the sorrow of a woman from an aristocratic family. Hello, Monsieur. What's the matter? Xiao Qin asked. It's like this. I don't know if you have time tonight. My husband wants to see you. CFA hesitated for a moment and said. Cough, cough, cough. Xiao Qin was stunned and said, Your husband, isn't he that young Master Wang? Didn't he not return home at all and didn't talk to you? Yes. Speaking up to this point, CFA had a headache. I don't know where he heard that you helped me find the dog in Xiaofeng. He thinks that you have superpowers and can help him, so he asked me to help invite you to my house to talk about things. Xiao Qin was suddenly speechless. Superpowers? This young Master Wang's imagination was quite rich. However, what surprised Xiao Qin was how did young Master Wang know so much? Didn't I ask you to keep my matter a secret? How did he know? This matter can't be hidden in the Xie family, and some people in the Xie family have a good relationship with the Wang family, so it's normal for him to know. CFA said, You also know that my marriage with him was facilitated by some people for benefits. So that's how it is. Xiao Qin nodded, which made him heave a sigh of relief. In that case, it wasn't deliberately done by someone with ulterior motives. Perhaps it was accidentally mentioned by someone who was close to young Master Wang, as if he was bragging, making him a superpower user. Please don't treat me like this. I've already said you can also find someone you like. I won't interfere. Even if you don't interfere, your family won't interfere? CFA glared at young Master Wang and said coldly. This. Young Master Wang didn't know what to say. In fact, he also knew that men could find someone outside, but women couldn't. This was the tragedy of a big family. Hero White Fox is here. Don't let others see you as a joke. This month I'll give you more money, okay? I waited a day for Hero White Fox. Don't make him unhappy and leave. Xiao Qin was speechless. This combination of Wang Xiongzhuang and CFA was really strange. It seemed that this young Master Wang wasn't the kind of person who would betray his wife. He was a person who was forced into a corner. In front of CFA, he couldn't even lift his head. Upstairs, the rooms on the left of the stairs have not been used. You can go up. CFA sighed. Although she was angry, she knew that this matter wasn't Wang Xiongzhuang's fault. It was caused by the Wang family and the Xie family. Okay, White Fox Hero, can you please go upstairs? Wang Xiongzhuang made a gesture of invitation. Let's go. Xiao Qin nodded. He went upstairs with Wang Xiongzhuang and entered the room on the left. This was a bridal chamber. To be precise, it was CFA and Wang Xiongzhuang's bridal chamber. There was the word happiness hanging in the room. The bedsheets were all red. It was a joyous atmosphere. It was just that, it had never been used before. The large wedding photo on the wall had been taken down and hung by the wall. After entering the room, Wang Xiongzhuang's expression became even uglier. Especially when he saw Xiao Qin sizing up the room, he hurriedly and carefully explained to Xiao Qin, Hero White Fox, I didn't mean to betray you. It's just that I have something difficult to say. I can't give Xiao Fei the life she wants. This CFA has been eavesdropping at the door all this time? Because this was CFA's house and Xiao Qin didn't have anything to keep secret, he didn't set up any defenses. He didn't expect CFA to eavesdrop. Of course, Xiao Qin wasn't afraid of anything, but the secret of Mr. Wang couldn't be kept. Fortunately, when Wang Xiongzhuang saw Xiao Qin leave, he immediately took out his phone to collect money. He didn't notice CFA outside. CFA, what are you doing at the door? Xiao Qin went downstairs and said with a bitter smile. Nothing. I was just passing by. CFA's face was slightly red. You heard it all? Xiao Qin saw CFA's expression and suddenly guessed something. He couldn't help but be a little embarrassed. I was just saying. I didn't mean anything to you, and I know. CFA nodded. That's good. Don't tell anyone about Mr. Wang. Since he is willing to pay for treatment, then I will treat him. Xiao Qin always felt that CFA didn't believe it. Does she think that I have feelings for her? And CFA nodded again. Then I will go and prepare the medicine for him. Xiaoqin nodded and turned to go out. That. Hero White Fox, are you really a superpower user? CFA suddenly shouted. You believe your family's bragging? Xiaoqin was stunned. He was a little dumbfounded. Then, can you still treat Wang Xiongzhuang? CFA said, are you fooling him? That's not the case. I know some medical skills. Xiaoqin said, in this day and age it's not so easy to be a hero. I have to be all round. Medical skills? Are you an alchemist? CFA was stunned and asked. Almost. Xiaoqin nodded. He couldn't explain it. It was better to classify himself as an alchemist so that he didn't have to explain too much. Then, can you help me see a doctor? CFA hesitated and asked. Chapter 194. What's wrong with you? Asked Xiaoqin. Forget it, nothing. I'm not sick. CFA shook her head again. Xiaoqin was a little puzzled, but since CFA said so, he didn't ask anything else. He just smiled and said, you are joking with me? Then I'll leave first. Okay. CFA nodded. What made Xiaoqin puzzled was that Wang Xiongzhuang's bodyguard was nowhere to be found. Wang Xiongzhuang probably sent him away. After all, family scandals shouldn't be aired in public. Probably no one knew about Wang Xiongzhuang's matter except for Xiaoling. Xiaoqin left CFA's villa and asked as he walked, how do you treat Wang Xiongzhuang's illness? Give him some herbal dregs? Why are you asking when you already know? Elder Heaven Ancestor said, he'll be fine after the knot is discharged. Okay, I'll go back and brew some for him. Xiaoqin didn't intend to give Wang Xiongzhuang the herbal dregs. Although there were some expensive herbs in the herbal dregs that were difficult to identify, with Wang Xiongzhuang's family's ability, it would be easy to find an alchemist to analyze it. Even if he didn't know what temperature to use and how long to brew it, Xiaoqin was afraid that the formula would be leaked. When he returned to the villa, Cheng Minjing and Yi Xiaoye were not in the living room. Xiaoqin returned to the bedroom and set the time to brew the herbal dregs. Wang Xiongzhuang's problem wasn't big. Xiaoqin didn't intend to let him wash his bones and marrow, so he only grabbed a small amount of herbal dregs and put them in the electric pot. As long as it could cure his current problem, it was fine. As for the rest, he didn't pay. After the herbs were brewed, Xiaoqin poured the herbal dregs into a bottle of mineral water. He left home and went to CFA's villa again. Wang Xiongzhuang was already very anxious. He paced back and forth in the living room restlessly. CFA was lying on the sofa lazily watching TV. She turned a blind eye to Wang Xiongzhuang's situation as if it had nothing to do with her. Hero White Fox, you're back. Seeing Xiaoqin come in, Wang Xiongzhuang immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that Xiaoqin wouldn't come back. After all, Wang Xiongzhuang's problem was very serious. He was afraid that Xiaoqin was perfunctory before, and then he would never return. Yes. Xiaoqin nodded and handed the bottle to Wang Xiongzhuang. Drink it. Drink here? Wang Xiongzhuang was taken aback. Yes, Xiaofei is not an outsider. She knows what I know, so you don't have to hide it. Xiaoqin said faintly. In fact, it was because CFA had overheard it before. Xiaoqin was too lazy to go upstairs. When this guy was cured, he could take the money to buy herbs. I see. Wang Xiongzhuang was slightly taken aback. In his heart, he felt that there was a relationship between Xiaoqin and CFA, but he didn't ask much. Don't ignore the Wang family after you become rich. No, I have to find a chance to interact with the White Fox God. Okay. Xiaoqin nodded. He didn't leave any message for Wang Xiongzhuang. It was just right for him to send it here. Then I'll leave first. Wang Xiongzhuang left happily. He thought that Xiaoqin's "I'm leaving" meant that he was asking him to leave. After all, Xiaoqin and CFA had that kind of relationship. Why would he leave? If someone were to leave, it should be Wang Xiongzhuang. Okay. Xiaoqin nodded and watched Wang Xiongzhuang and the black-suited bodyguard get into a GMC RV and leave the Xie family's villa. After he left, Xiaoqin said to CFA, I'm leaving too. Stay alone at night. Be careful. If there's anything, call me. After Xiaoqin finished speaking, he was ready to leave. Hey, do you really have feelings for me? CFA suddenly asked Xiaoqin. Xiaoqin staggered and almost hit the door frame. Just as he wanted to say something, CFA's giggling laughter came from behind him. I'm just kidding. It turns out that the hero also has times where he can't stay calm. I'm practicing the butterfly micro-steps. Xiaoqin quibbled, haven't you heard of the butterfly micro-steps? I've heard of it. I saw it on TV. CFA nodded and said in a serious manner, "Can you learn these lost techniques from TV? Are you talking about the campus bell? I have already increased the prestige of the author. He told me the mantra." Xiao Chen said casually. "Oh, then the next time you see him, ask him if he can arrange for me to be the female protagonist?" asked CFA. "I'll try." Xiao Chen found out that he had been teased recently. CFA didn't dare to talk to him like this in the past. "I have to be serious next time. However, you can wait until the day you can arrange for me to be the male protagonist. Then you can be the male protagonist." "Oh, you're still interested in me? Otherwise, why do you want to be the male protagonist?" CFA looked like she understood. Xiao Chen suddenly blushed. What he meant was that she had to wait, which meant that there was basically no chance. He didn't expect to be misunderstood by CFA. "I'm leaving. Goodbye." CFA waved to Xiao Chen. In fact, she was joking with Xiao Chen because she was usually too depressed. Every day seemed to be comfortable, but in fact it was simple and boring. She had no friends, no lover. She was alone in the villa, accompanied by a Tibetan Mastiff and her Mahjong friends. Therefore, when she suddenly had a friend she could talk to, even if it was a very powerful and mysterious person, CFA couldn't help but make a few jokes. In fact, she didn't have any other meaning. Xiao Chen left the Xie family and quickly walked in the direction of the pharmacy. He weighed the 5 million in his bank card in his hand and silently prayed that he wouldn't run into Hongzhu again. However, when he arrived at the entrance of the pharmacy and looked inside, damn. "Hello, handsome." Hongzhu, who was originally quietly reading a book, suddenly raised her head and smiled at Xiao Chen, who was preparing to leave the door quietly. Xiao Chen had already decided that even if he had to delay his cultivation for a day, he would come back tomorrow. He had been cheated badly last time. Money wasn't that easy to earn. It's little sister Hongzhu. "Hello, I'm just passing by," Xiao Chen said. "Passing by? Aren't you here to buy medicinal ingredients?" Hongzhu placed her hand on the edge of the pharmacy's door and leaned forward. Half of her body was out of the door, revealing a V-shaped hook on her chest. Xiao Chen couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. In fact, the extent of Hongzhu's body was not as exposed as those office ladies on the street. Xiao Chen could only vaguely see through her shirt. Even so, Xiao Chen felt that she was particularly attractive, and he couldn't help but be unable to extricate himself. Xiao Chen moved his gaze away with difficulty. Sometimes, it was even more tempting for a man to be vaguely seen. It had to be said that Hongzhu's every move moved Xiao Chen. He couldn't wait to push her onto the counter. However, Xiao Chen was a person with self-control. If he really pushed a woman of unknown origin like this, he might not even know how he died. "I originally planned to buy medicine, but I haven't saved enough money. The last time, it was too expensive," Xiao Chen said after taking a deep breath. "Then how much money did you have this time? Tell this little sister and this little sister will give you a discount." Hongzhu looked at Xiao Chen with a smile. Her breath smelled like orchids and faintly seemed to float onto Xiao Chen's face. It made him feel a little itchy, as if ants were scratching him, and his heart was also itching. "Not much, not as much as the last time." Xiao Chen calmed his mind and said. Xiao Chen inexplicably felt that this woman should only exist in the heavens, and could only be seen a few times in the mortal world. Although he couldn't see her face clearly, Xiao Chen felt that the person in front of him was a fairy that had descended from the mortal world. That kind of beauty seemed otherworldly. Charm technique? Xiao Chen, don't fall for it, be careful. Elder Heaven Ancestor's warning sounded in Xiao Chen's ears. Charm technique? Xiao Chen was stunned for a moment, but he immediately came to his senses. The woman in front of him was still the night woman whose face couldn't be seen clearly. Where was this fairy? Even if the woman's figure was beautiful and graceful, she was just an assassin who was hostile towards him. Is sister beautiful? Do you want to play with sister? The nocturnal lady's bewitching voice rang out again. Her figure suddenly approached Xiao Chen. Sure, but take off your mask first. Let me see if you're ugly or not. Xiao Chen took a step back, his whole body was extremely vigilant. The strength displayed by this woman was at the peak of stage 5 inner force, which was one level lower than Xiao Chen. The night woman saw that Xiao Chen dodged and even asked her to take off her mask. She was stunned. She didn't expect her charm technique to fail. Could it be that he didn't fall for it? That's impossible. I must have not used all my strength just now. Thinking of this, the night woman looked at Xiao Chen and said coyly, Sure, but only for you to see. Come here, sister will show you. Not only can you see my face, but you can also see other parts of my body. Good. Xiao Qin sneered in his heart. He casually set up an illusion. Xiao Qin, who looked like a pig, walked towards the woman with blurred eyes. The night woman saw that Xiao Qin had fallen for her trick, and was overjoyed. She thought to herself, I knew it, I'm the genius witch of the mystic faction. How could I not deal with you? If you finally fell for it, huh? I'll beat you up first. Bam. 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 The night woman punched and kicked Xiao Qin's illusion in the air, and Xiao Qin took the opportunity to escape. The way the night woman came was a little strange, and from the looks of it, she didn't want to kill him, and he didn't know what she wanted. However, the night woman was a martial artist at the peak of Stage 5 inner force, and Xiao Qin didn't have much confidence. Instead of fighting her head-on, it was better to escape. Of course, the reason why Xiao Qin was able to use the illusion to successfully deal with a martial artist who was a level higher than him was also because the strength of the nocturnal woman was not particularly high. Although she was at the peak of the 5th stage of inner strength, she was not a normal martial artist. If Xiao Qin was not surprised, she should be a demonic cultivator. Demon cultivators of the same level were not as strong as martial cultivators in a head-on fight. They were good at supporting spells which were similar to true cultivators. Xiao Qin now suspected that be it martial cultivators or demonic cultivators, had they all evolved from cultivators in the beginning? Or in other words, true cultivators evolved from true cultivators. The nocturnal woman was proficient in seduction techniques, so her strength at the peak of the 5th stage was probably equivalent to a normal martial artist's inner strength at the peak of the 4th stage. Xiao Qin had taken advantage of her being caught off guard, and in the most impossible situation, he had fallen for Xiao Qin's illusion. Xiao Qin disappeared like a wisp of smoke. The nocturnal woman was still hitting the air. After hitting for a long time, she suddenly realized that something was wrong. Her vision blurred, and Xiao Qin, who was beaten black and blue by her, disappeared. Illusion. It's actually an illusion. The night woman was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Today was really embarrassing. She had always used her illusion-like seduction skills to deal with others, but today she was given a taste of her own medicine and lost her mind. Xiao Qin, you're very good. I wanted to test you, but now there's no need for that. When Xiao Qin returned to the villa, he started to decoct the medicinal ingredients. After setting the time, he fell into deep thought and recalled what happened today. The night woman that he met tonight made Xiao Qin feel a little strange. Judging from the situation, she shouldn't be one of Chao Yuliang's people, and definitely not one of Lu Jinming's people. Lu Jinming had temporarily called a truce for Cheng Menjing. It was still unknown when the war would start, but now it was definitely not one of his people. And Chao Yuliang basically wanted to kill him the moment he made a move. Moreover, he had just treated him to a meal and now he wanted to kill him? Was there something wrong with him? This was too unnecessary. If Xiao Qin didn't guess wrong, Chao Yuliang should be making a move tomorrow and the day after. As for the Sun family, it was possible. A few days ago, Xiao Qin had just beaten up Sun Rongjin in the morning market street. After so many days, Sun Rongjin should be able to find out his identity. However, Sun Rongjin was such a ruthless person. Last time he sent Lu Jianbiao to kill people, so it was impossible for him to get a little girl to use seduction skills on him. Elder Heaven Ancestor, what is this seduction skill? Why do I feel that the martial artists of the demon sect are similar to the cultivators? Xiao Qin couldn't figure it out, so he naturally asked. Yes, in this world, in the beginning there were not so many detailed divisions. Everyone was collectively known as the cultivators. Elder Heaven Ancestor nodded and said to Xiao Qin, it is time to let you know about this history. Cultivator? So, cultivators also belong to this? After listening, Xiao Qin couldn't help but ask, then why is it said that cultivators are high-end bad *SS professions? We all evolved from cultivators. Diamonds and pencils are both carbon elements. Is there any comparison? Elder Sky harumphed. When a cultivator evolves to a lower level, they become a warrior. When they evolve to a higher level, they become a cultivator. So, other cultivators also exist in this world? Xiao Qin asked. I don't know whether they still exist or not, but based on my current observation, the heaven and earth spirit chi around you is so thin that only martial artists can continue to exist. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, and you are a different species. I also don't know how you cultivated so fast. This was the topic that Xiao Qin didn't want to talk about the most. It was a good thing that his cultivation speed was fast, but the side effects were unknown, especially when the devil chi entered his body. Xiao Qin really didn't know what he would become in the future. Let's not talk about this. Let's talk about the demonic cultivator today. I have been asleep for too long. I'm not too clear about the situation in the secular world. She should be a disciple of some demon sect, but I don't know the specifics. I only know that she used seduction skills. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, however, she doesn't have any killing intent towards you. Is it because one of the girls that you betrayed in the past learned martial arts and came back to take revenge? Love and hate can't do it? I'm still a virgin. Xiaoqun was amazed by Elder Heaven Ancestor's imagination. Betrayal doesn't necessarily have to happen. Falling in love sometimes happens in an instant. Love and hate happen in an instant. Raising a glass to the moon is like the sky. Elder Heaven Ancestor sang, I'm sorry, I'm just expressing my feelings. I thought of some things in the past. Xiaoqun realized that Elder Heaven Ancestor was familiar with him. He was no longer the strict master who was difficult to talk to, but more like an old urchin. Master, were you also trapped by love in the past? Let's not talk about this. Think about whether you provoked a little girl, Elder Heaven Ancestor said. I don't think so. Xiaoqun thought about it but couldn't think of anything. The only demon sect disciple that he knew was Yi Xiaoya. There was no one else. Chapter 196. However, since he couldn't figure it out, Xiaoqun didn't want to think about it anymore. Continuing to improve his strength was the right way. After the medicinal herbs were decocted, Xiaoqun drank it all in one gulp. When the warmth once again surged into his heart, Xiaoqun began to train crazily. He didn't want to waste the slightest bit of medicinal effect. After exercising, there was an indescribable feeling of comfort all over his body. And the distance to the 5th level of Qi refining stage, Xiaoqun felt that he had touched the long-awaited barrier. This was the happiest thing for Xiaoqun. After spending so much money on it, there were finally signs of a breakthrough. Something's wrong. Before Xiaoqun finished being happy, he heard the voice of Elder Heaven Ancestor in his ear. In the past, every time at this time, you could break through the barrier in one fell swoop. Why can't you do it now? Little Qinzi, I've also noticed that your cultivation speed has become slower recently. Xiaoqun carefully thought about it. It seemed that every time he touched the barrier he could break through in one fell swoop. It was rare for him to stay here. Could it be that his good luck had come to an end? But this thing depended on luck? Wasn't it talent? Isn't the higher the level, the harder it is to break through? Xiaoqun thought for a moment and asked. In theory it is, but I saw that every time you broke through so quickly I thought that was not the case, said the Elder Heaven Ancestor. You first practice for a night and see the situation. Maybe you can break through tomorrow. Tomorrow. Then this medicinal herb would be wasted. Xiaoqun was a little distressed. Oh right, my medicinal dregs are not the same every time. The effect of treating the injuries of those warriors and ordinary people should be different, right? At present, the medicinal herbs that you took in the Qi refining stage have the same effect on them. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said, it is different for you because every time I add precious medicinal herbs, most of the medicinal efficacy of these precious medicinal herbs have been absorbed by you. After 3 times there is not much left. Therefore to them, as long as a little rare medicinal herb is combined with other basic medicinal herbs, it will be enough to treat them. If you really want to give them medicinal herbs that you haven't taken before, hee. What do you mean? Asked Xiaoqun, taken aback by the sinister laughter of the Elder Heaven Ancestor. He couldn't take it and his meridians flowed in reverse and his body exploded. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said. Damn, it's that serious? Xiaoqun's eyes widened. Then why am I fine? Don't you have the Heaven's stolen fortune battle art? The Elder Heaven Ancestor said disdainfully. With such a powerful mantra, how could there be a problem? Didn't I practice the opposite way? Xiaoqun said. In that case, did he almost die from practicing? Who can you blame for training in the opposite direction? A gentleman can't blame himself. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said, besides, aren't you training normally? There's nothing wrong with you? Fine. Xiaoqun knew that he couldn't argue with the Elder Heaven Ancestor. At first, he was afraid that his prescription would be leaked, but now it seemed that whoever caught him according to the prescription would probably die after drinking it once. In the past, Xiaoqun would have been very happy, but now, should he remind Hong Yan and Grandpa Chen of the pharmacy? When he thought of the pharmacy, Xiaoqun suddenly thought of Hongzhu. He didn't know why, but Xiaoqun felt that the girl who had come looking for trouble tonight was Hongzhu. However, their voices were different. As for the figure, Xiaoqun didn't look carefully. As for the face, it was covered so he couldn't see it clearly. The similarity between the two was just an illusion of Xiaoqun. Hongzhu liked to seduce and tease him, and so did the girl who was looking for trouble at night. But if he thought about it carefully, Xiaoqin didn't think that the two were the same person. After all, Xiaoqin didn't offend Hongzhu. The two had just met not long ago, and Xiaoqin didn't know her before. Moreover, he paid for the medicinal materials and didn't rob them. It was impossible for Hongzhu to target him for no reason. Shaking his head, Xiaoqin put this idea aside for the time being. No matter who it was, it would be enough to see if the other party would kill him next time. The only thing Xiaoqin could do was to improve his strength as soon as possible. The next day was Saturday. It was the day that Xiaoqin, Qing Minjing, Jin Beibei, Chao Yuliang, Qin Jinping, and Xin Jingxian went on an outing. Xiaoqin sent a message to Tang Tang, telling her that he couldn't sell fried dough sticks today and that he would go on an outing with Qing Minjing. Soon Tang Tang's message came back, "Come on, push down the goddess. I support you." Xiaoqin was rendered speechless. Why did he have to push her? He should have pushed her. But Xiaoqin didn't reply. After all, he and Tang Tang were sometimes more than just good friends. Xiaoqin didn't want them to be more awkward, so he deliberately avoided this kind of joke. Xiaoqin directly replied that he was just a follower. But before Tang Tang replied, another phone card with the identity of White Fox called. "Hey, hello." Xiaoqin picked up the phone. This was also the number given by the Warrior Guild. Xiaoqin didn't know who was calling. "Is this Mr. White Fox?" A voice with a foreign accent came from the other side of the phone. "Yes, and you are?" Xiaoqin asked. "Let me introduce myself. My surname is Zhang and my name is Zhang Tianhao. I issued the level 4 task of killing the evil cultivator in the Warrior Guild." "Oh, it's Mr. Zhang. Hello." If the Warrior Guild or the Supernatural Investigation Bureau sent experts, he wouldn't be able to get revenge, but he would also be in trouble. Years ago he was seriously injured by an expert from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, which greatly reduced his strength. Otherwise, he wouldn't have to be so careful when he returned to the Jianghu. After all, he was just a heretic with stage 6 inner force, only slightly stronger than his disciple. "I've said it before. Why don't you kill me? Anyway, I've already gotten my revenge. Looking at Ping Ping every day makes me feel like I'm better off dead. The sooner I die, the sooner I can be free." Zhang Tianhao said calmly, "If you have the ability, find him yourself." "You think I can't?" Which of Shishan was angry. "I just don't want to waste time." Xiaoqin on the other side of the phone heard everything clearly. Zhang Tianhao didn't really hang up the phone, but let the conversation be transmitted to Xiaoqin. Xiaoqin didn't expect that killing a heretic would cause so much trouble. His disciple died, and his master came to avenge him. What worried him the most was the strength of this master. He didn't know if he had the confidence to deal with him. Moreover, if this heretic master found him, he would definitely find Yi Xiaoye. Then wouldn't Yi Xiaoye be in danger? However, Zhang Tianhao was already very kind. Xiaoqin was very grateful that he was willing to go this far. He was the one who issued the mission and Xiaoqin was the one who accepted the mission. There were risks when doing a mission. If one couldn't bear the risk, then don't do it. Therefore, even if Zhang Tianhao told his heretic master Xiaoqin about his whereabouts, he wouldn't hold a grudge, let alone not tell him. Therefore, Xiaoqin still admired Zhang Tianhao, and he immediately had a good impression of him. However, Xiaoqin was in a bit of a dilemma. This heretic master would find him sooner or later. How should he deal with him? With his current strength, it was definitely impossible. Chapter 197. The conversation on the other side was still going on. "Then wouldn't talking to me waste more time?" Zhang Tianhao sneered. "If I ask him out, will you let me go?" "I don't think so. I have already investigated. You are a direct descendant of the Zhang family. I have achieved my goal. Why should I make enemies with the Zhang family?" What the witch of Shishan said was reasonable. "Okay, then I will make another call." On Zhang Tianhao's side, the information was almost revealed. If the White Fox refused to meet, it was not his fault. He would let the witch of Shishan think of another way. "Hurry up and call." Seeing that Zhang Tianhao agreed, the witch of Shishan let out a sigh of relief. He sneered in his heart. "After I kill the White Fox, it will be your turn." The moment Zhang Tianhao picked up the phone, he hung up the call with Xiaoqin and dialed again. "Hello." Xiaoqin also cooperated and pretended to have just answered the call. "What happened just now? Did it suddenly stop?" "Ah, it did." Zhang Tianhao was taken aback. He did not expect Xiaoqin to be so cooperative. However, he also heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that Xiaoqin had understood what he meant. "Let's talk about the same thing as before. Can we meet? I want to thank you personally. Also, there's something else. Say it, Xiaoqin said. It's my girlfriend Ping Ping. I heard that Mr. White Fox is also proficient in medicine. Can you help me? Zhang Tianhao asked. Xiaoqin was speechless. Where did you hear this? His story was quite accurate. Oh, about that, I can't guarantee anything. What's wrong with your girlfriend? She was cut open by the evil practitioner and lost a lot of blood. Now she is in a vegetative state. She is not out of danger yet. Out of the ICU. Zhang Tianhao said. Well, that's fine. However, I am now on a mission. How about I contact you when I get back? Xiaoqin thought that he had to break through to the 5th level of the Qi refinement realm. His current strength was too weak. Of course, it would be better if he could reach the 6th floor, but he definitely couldn't delay it for that long. That evil cultivator's master was very anxious, and he estimated that he could only delay it for a few days. Okay, no problem. I'll wait for your call then? Zhang Tianhao replied. He was a little confused. Did that mean Xiaoqin had agreed? Did Xiaoqin have the strength to kill the evil cultivator's master? After hanging up the phone, Zhang Tianhao said to the Witch of Xishan, You heard it, he agreed. Very well, I'll leave you a phone number. If there's any news, contact me. Old Witch of West Mountain nodded. But don't lie to me. You also know that although I may not be able to do anything to you if you mobilize all the guards of the Zhang family to protect you, don't forget that your girlfriend is still in the hospital. It's easy for me to kill her. I don't even need to kill her. I can directly destroy the power system of the hospital, haha. I know. Don't worry, when White Fox contacts me I'll tell you immediately, Zhang Tianhao said with a shiver in his heart. Well, you are a smart person. I like to do things with smart people. After saying that, Old Witch of West Mountain flew out of the window and disappeared into the morning fog. After Old Witch of West Mountain left, Zhang Tianhao let out a long breath. His clothes were already soaked in cold sweat. Who said that he wasn't afraid of death? His determination just now was because he didn't want to cause trouble for Xiaoqin, but when he thought of Ping Ping in the hospital, Zhang Tianhao wanted to continue to wait for her. After a while, when he was sure that Old Witch of West Mountain had left, Zhang Tianhao dialed Xiaoqian's number again. Mr. White Fox, I'm sorry to have caused you trouble. Zhang Tianhao said directly. It doesn't matter. I killed his disciple, so it's natural for him to find me. Xiaoqin said, but do you have any information about him? Only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win every battle. So far, all I know is that his name is Old Witch of West Mountain, and he is a Stage 6 Inner Force Evil Cultivator. Zhang Tianhao said, that's all I know. Mr. White Fox, thank you for avenging me, but if you can't, you'd better hide. That's not necessary. Hearing that his opponent was only a Stage 6 Inner Force Evil Cultivator, Xiaoqin suddenly felt relieved. If it was a higher level, Xiaoqin would be a little afraid, but Xiaoqin soon broke through to the Stage 5 Refinement stage. When he was at the Stage 4 Refinement stage, Xiaoqin already had the strength of a Stage 5 Inner Force Evil Cultivator. Now that he was at the Stage 5 Refinement stage, he should have some confidence. Okay, I understand. I will contact you when the time comes. After hanging up the phone, Xiaoqin was thinking about whether he should face this matter with Yi Xiaoye or face it himself. When Yi Xiaoye teamed up with him, she didn't ask for any points and gave them all to him. Now that the evil cultivator's master was looking for trouble, if he looked for Yi Xiaoye, it would be a little unfair. Although Yi Xiaoye could share some of the pressure with Xiaoqin, Yi Xiaoye was only a Stage 4 Inner Force Evil Cultivator. He was afraid that not only would she not be able to help Xiaoqin, but she would also be a burden. Thinking of this, Xiaoqin wanted to remind Yi Xiaoye to be careful. Taking out his phone, Xiaoqin opened the app and sent a message to Yi Biya. Hey, what are you doing? What else can I do? Of course I am practicing. Yi Xiaoye quickly replied. I heard that the evil cultivator's master is called Old Witch of West Mountain. His disciple is dead, and Old Witch of West Mountain is ready to take revenge. Xiaoqin said. What? Is it true? Old Demon of West Mountain? After a while, Yi Xiaoye replied with a message. Obviously she was shocked. The source of the news is more accurate. Do you know Old Witch of West Mountain? Xiaoqin asked. No way? You don't know? You look silly like a newcomer, but I didn't expect it to be true. Are you a disciple of the evil sect? Yi Xiaoye sent a surprised expression. No one has told me about this before. Tell me, what kind of person is this old demon Xishan? Xiaoqin's heart trembled. This old demon Xishan seemed to be a very awesome person. Old Witch of West Mountain is the younger brother of Old Witch of West Mountain who used to be powerful for decades. After Old Witch of West Mountain retired, Old Witch of West Mountain stepped into the martial world and set off a bloody storm for a while. Later, he was injured by the masters of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau and the Warrior Guild. Old Witch of West Mountain disappeared. I didn't expect him to come back. I don't know the details. Anyway, when I was a child, I didn't listen to my master when I was cultivating. He scared me and said that Old Witch of West Mountain was coming. Yi Xiaoye replied. This Old Witch of West Mountain could scare a child? That was a really awesome person. However, why was he only at stage 6 of inner force? Therefore, Xiaoqin asked, then why is he only at level 6 inner force? After being injured by a master, he escaped. But even if he didn't die, it's normal for his strength to fall. It's just that his disciple was a little too weak. Yi Xiaoye said. I guess he was killed by a difficult mission not long after he came out to train. If he had been targeting ordinary people, I guess he wouldn't have died so quickly. Xiaoqin said. That's true. Then you should be careful. Don't get caught by him. If you see his whereabouts, you must report it to the Warrior Guild and ask for protection. Yi Xiaoye said. I can report it and ask for protection? Xiaoqin was slightly stunned. Originally, he wanted to remind Yi Xiaoye to be careful. He didn't expect Yi Xiaoye to remind him first. Yes, it's in the app. You can look for it. Yi Xiaoye said. Xiaoqin searched for a while and found an I want to report option. There was a note inside. When a martial artist encountered an evil force that he couldn't solve, he could seek help from the Warrior Guild. The Warrior Guild would decide whether to solve it or not according to the severity of the case. It could even cooperate with the masters from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau to solve it. However, what made Xiaoqin helpless was that to report a case to the Warrior Guild, he had to fill in his real identity information. This was a necessary first step. It was probably to prevent people from making a false report, right? However, Xiaoqin's identity couldn't be exposed. If his identity was exposed, it might be even more troublesome than Old Witch of West Mountain. He really couldn't seek help randomly. Then, are you going to report it? Xiaoqin asked Yi Xiaoye. I can't. Master doesn't allow me to reveal my real identity. Moreover, I'm going to break through in seclusion. I feel that I've already touched the barrier of stage 5 inner force. Yi Xiaoye said. Me too. I can't reveal it. Xiaoqin replied helplessly. Then we'll wait for the Warrior Guild to find out. As long as we hide well and don't go out, he won't be able to find us. If he appears frequently and is discovered by the Warrior Guild, they will automatically file a case and send masters to punish him. Yi Xiaoye said. All right. Xiaoqin said. You can stay at home in seclusion, but I can't. I have to go out every day. Fortunately, it was Xiaoqin's identity and not White Fox's identity. After chatting with Yi Xiaoye, it was almost time. Xiaoqin got up and went to see if there was anything he could help Missy. Qing Minjing and Jean Beibei got up early and started packing. Girls going to the seaside was like going on a trip. All kinds of sunscreen, clothes, hats, and mats had to be prepared. The two of them packed a big bag. Xiaoqin felt that the big bag could contain both of them. Hey Xiaoqin, you came just in time. Help me carry it. Qing Minjing pointed at the big bag on the ground and said, Oh. With Xiaoqin's current strength, it was easy for him to carry the big bag. Xiaoqin carried it on his shoulder effortlessly. Yi Xiaoye happened to come downstairs. When she saw Xiaoqin doing manual work, she was a little disdainful. Can't some people be more manly? Don't depend on others. Is it fun to serve two young ladies every day? What did you say? Who's a young lady? Qing Minjing glared at Yi Xiaoye and said angrily. Chapter 198. Qing Minjing had almost forgotten about Yi Xiaoye because of the time difference. Today was the weekend. When she saw Yi Xiaoye and thought of the previous conflict, Qing Minjing was full of anger at once. Whoever asks others to carry the bag can do it. If it were me, I would definitely carry it myself. Yi Xiaoye said. You can carry it? Qing Minjing didn't believe that Yi Xiaoye could carry the super big bag in front of her. You will know whether I can carry it or not after trying. Yi Xiaoye just didn't like Qing Minjing. She acted like a rich lady, but she had a good family background, didn't she? Xiaoqin had helped her, so she was naturally partial to Xiaoqin. She didn't want Xiaoqin to be bullied by her every day. Xiaoqin put it down. I will show it to her. Well, Xiaoqin was a little helpless. Others might not know, but he knew that Yi Xiaoye's strength. It was a piece of cake for her to carry it. Xiaoqin put down the travel bag, but Yi Xiaoye picked it up directly without any difficulty. She even raised it over her head and shook it as if it were air. Then she put it down on the ground. What do you say? Cheng Minjing was dumbfounded. She didn't expect that Yi Xiaoya could carry it. Was the bag really not heavy? Cheng Minjing tried to pick it up with her hands subconsciously, but she couldn't carry it at all. Cousin Minjing, she has the qualifications to be someone else's personal maid. We can't carry it. She might as well be a rich lady, Jean Bebe said. Cheng Minjing's eyes glittered when she heard Jean Bebe's words. Right. She had regarded the word Miss Jiao as an insult to her, but on second thought, it was better to be a rich lady than to be a maid. Yi Xiaoya was destined to be a maid. Therefore she put her hands on her waist and said proudly, right? You can carry it, so what? It's because you don't have servants, but I do. Yes. Cousin Minjing, I'm just envious, jealous and hateful. Look, her face is green. Jean Bebe nodded and said. You. Yi Xiaoya glared at Jean Bebe. Every time she had the upper hand in a quarrel with Cheng Minjing, she would be killed by Jean Bebe. Let's go. It's time for an outing. Some people don't have the chance to go. They can only play the real-life version of Happy Ranch at home and plant some flowers and plants. Jean Bebe hopped out of the villa. Cheng Minjing followed her. Looking at Yi Xiaoya, whose face had turned from green to black, Xiao Qin sighed and shrugged. Then he went out with the big bag. It was difficult to reason with Jean Bebe. Not to mention that Yi Xiaoya didn't even care about it at all. After they walked out of the villa, they saw that Chao Yuliang and Qin Jinping were already there. In the yard of the villa, an Audi Q7 and a minivan were parked. The Audi Q7, on the other hand, was brand new. Its shiny paint was shining brightly under the sun. On the other hand, the minivan beside it had been sold many times over the years. It was extremely tattered and the paint was peeling off. There was also a dent at the rear and the license plate was not hung properly. This car. Why is it so shabby? Cheng Minjing pointed at the van in the yard and was stunned. Where did you get it? Oh, this is my new car. Qin Jinping said in a hurry. I don't have much money recently. So, I borrowed the grocery cart from the restaurant in my family. In fact, even the grocery cart of the Qin family was better than this one. It was a modified RV. The minivan was bought by Qin Jinping at a second-hand market for 2,000 yuan. He was truly scared of Jean Bebe's tricks. He drove a luxury car, but he was tricked into buying it. Now that he had changed to a shabby car, Jean Bebe wouldn't be interested in it anymore, would she? Well, that's great. Put everything in your car. Let's take the Q7. Jingxian, you and I will take the same car. Cheng Minjing said as she instructed Xiao Qin to put the travel bag in Qin Jinping's car. Where's my appearance fee? Xiao Qin placed his travel bag on the van and asked Qin Jinping, who had a bitter look on his face. Qin Jinping was very upset. Although he could avoid being tricked by Jean Bebe by changing to a shabby car, he could not sit in the same car with Qin Jingxian anymore. However, his car was too shabby, and he could not invite Cheng Minjing to get in. What appearance fee? Didn't I give you the money for the meal? Qin Jinping was stunned and said. Didn't you give me the appearance fee for the meal? Today is the appearance fee for the trip. I can buy 2 cars if you give me the money. Xiao Qin stretched out his hand and said. How much do you want this time? Brother Xiao, I'm so poor. Look at my car. It's of such a level. Where can I find the money? Qin Jinping complained about being poor. Oh, then I'll go to the morning market to sell fried dough sticks. Tang Tang is waiting for me. Xiao Qin said. No. Wait a minute. Let me see whether Brother Liang has money or not. This time, Qin Jinping and Xiao Yuliang had planned to kill Xiao Qin. If Xiao Qin did not go, who else could they kill? Qin Jinping got out of the car and came to Xiao Yuliang. He whispered something in his ear. Then Xiao Yuliang's face changed. He did not expect that Xiao Qin had become so greedy. Why did he want so much money? Previously, Xiao Yuliang did not think too much about it. However, now that he thought about it carefully, Xiao Qin kept asking for money, but it was useless. He had food and a place to stay, and Jean Bebe had tricked him into a car. He had everything. Why would he need money? And he was so greedy? Generally, people who desperately wanted money had a purpose. Xiao Qin, who had no purpose, wanted so much money. Xiao Yuliang frowned slightly. But after thinking about it, Xiao Qin was going to die today. Why did he need money? Give him 500,000. Xiao Yuliang whispered to Qin Jinping, you know the password of my card. Transfer it to him. Okay. Qin Jinping nodded. He returned to Xiao Qin and said, Brother Xiao, how about 500,000? I won't bargain with you. Let's fix the price. After all, it's 2 days and 1 night. Let's camp at the seaside tonight. Okay. In fact, Xiao Chen had already heard his and Qiao Yuliang's whispers. With Xiao Chen's sharp ears he could definitely hear it. But he was satisfied with 500,000. Including the 2,050,000 he had left, Xiao Chen had 2,500,000 in total. Even if he did not make a breakthrough with this medicine he could make another one with more money. Qin Jinping breathed a sigh of relief and transferred the money to Xiao Chen. He was trying his best to comfort Xiao Chen. As long as Xiao Chen arrived at the seaside, it would be beyond his control. Li Shanying had arranged everything. At that time Xiao Chen would be doomed. Xiao Chen sat in the passenger seat of the Audi Q7, while Qing Minjing, Jin Beibei and Xin Jingxin sat in the back row. Qin Jinping drove behind them. I used to think that Qiao Yuliang could be my subordinate and drive for me. Now, my wish has finally come true, Xiao Chen said after getting in the car. Ha! Qiao Yuliang gave a hollow laugh and thought, I'll let you fulfill your wish before you die. You piece of trash, how can you compare with me? I'm willing to be Qing Minjing's driver. I can do it for the rest of my life. I already have a driver. I don't need you. Qing Minjing snorted and said, my driver must be able to do heavy work. He has to do all the dirty and tiring work. Then I can do it too. Qiao Yuliang said hurriedly, Minjing, you underestimate me. I can do whatever Xiao Chen can do. If you let me do it in the future, Xiao Chen won't have to do it anymore. He can be more free. That's great. Yangzi, I'll watch you show your power later. My cousin-in-law is quite lazy and doesn't want to work. He won't be willing to be a servant. I don't like lazy people either. Jin Beibei interrupted. Of course. I'm so hard-working. Qiao Yuliang said, feeling good about himself. Xiao Chen couldn't help but sneer inwardly. This idiot. You'll cry when I tell you to work later. Seeing that the Miss and Jin Beibei were able to settle a free laborer with a few words, Lin Yi was more than happy. I don't want to be your servant. Who would want to work hard without pay? All right, Xiao Chen. I want to change my position with you. Qiao Yuliang thought to himself. Xiao Chen really didn't know how lucky he was. However, Xiao Chen seemed to be having an affair with Jin Beibei right now, and there was nothing between him and Qing Minjing. Therefore it was normal that he didn't like Qing Minjing. The car left the city quickly. Xiao Chen had been taking a nap in the passenger seat, while Qing Minjing, Xin Jingxin and Jin Beibei were whispering to each other, discussing what to do when they arrived at the seaside. In the beginning it was naturally on the way. However, when they arrived at the seaside road there were more cars. It was the weekend and most of them were tourists who came here for vacation. Self-driving tours were popular nowadays, so the roads were basically jammed. The car moved forward step by step. It was rare for it to move 20 meters smoothly. Xiao Chen, something's not right. Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice suddenly sounded next to Xiao Chen's ears. Xiao Chen immediately became alert and released his divine sense and mental strength. Did Qiao Yuliang choose to take action here? Or did someone else want to take action against him? Of course, while releasing his divine sense, Xiao Chen was also secretly observing Qiao Yuliang's movements. If it was Qiao Yuliang's arrangement, there would definitely be something wrong. Although Qiao Yuliang was good at disguising himself and had hidden his strength for so long, there would still be something wrong in this situation. Of course, if one did not pay attention one would not notice it. However, Xiao Chen had been secretly paying attention to Qiao Yuliang. Therefore he found that Qiao Yuliang had been secretly paying attention to the GPS in the car. Moreover, he had enlarged the map to a very large scale. He seemed to be looking for a location. Is he going to take action somewhere? Seeing Qiao Yuliang's attention, Xiao Chen secretly became alert. Soon Qiao Yuliang's car began to slow down. Originally he was closely following the car ahead, but now he had unknowingly pulled more than 10 meters away from the car ahead. Moreover, Qiao Yuliang's car was also very slow. He kept moving forward slowly and leisurely. Xiao Chen patted Qiao Yuliang's shoulder and said, "Besides, your car doesn't seem to work very well. I remember that Jin Beibei's family has a similar car, which also moves forward on its own. Is yours the same?" Qiao Yuliang's heart suddenly palpitated, and his face almost turned green. "No, this car belongs to my family." "Oh, do you want to check the vehicle license?" Xiao Chen asked. "No need. I didn't bring it." Qiao Yuliang was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He suddenly realized that the current Xiao Chen was even more troublesome, shameless, and difficult to deal with than the previous Xiao Chen. He had been driven out of the family. Where did he get the confidence to go against me? However, as it happened, Qiao Yuliang couldn't do anything about Xiao Chen at all. Qin Jinping got in the car and crouched in the back with a lot of travel bags. He couldn't have felt more uncomfortable. Seeing that Xiao Chen was enjoying the air conditioner in the front and taking a rest leisurely, Qin Jinping was so cramped that he didn't even have the space to move. He was a little resentful. Xiao Chen was already nothing, yet he was still so cool and awesome. Why was he doing this? His thoughts were similar to Qiao Yuliang's. Logically, Xiao Chen should be someone who could be trampled on easily, but he seemed to be even more awesome than before. In the past, Qiao Yuliang had dared to go against him. But now Qiao Yuliang almost listened to him. He gave him money and a car as if he was serving a master. Wow. Qin Jinping swore in his heart that he would definitely pay back the humiliation Xiao Chen had given him. When Xiao Chen died, he would whip his corpse to vent his hatred. What happened just now? Those workers were too careless. Why didn't we wait for the traffic police to come and sue their company? Shen Jingxian didn't know what had happened. She thought it was really an accident. However, Qing Minjing and Jin Beibei didn't think so. How could there be so many accidents? However, how could Xiao Chen be so lucky to avoid it? If Qiao Yuliang's car had moved back a few spaces, the person it would have hit would have been Xiao Chen. Who knows? It's fine if there are no casualties. We can't afford to waste time. Didn't you see those workers ran away? I guess they are all temporary workers. It will take a long time to sue their company. We still have to go out and have fun. Qiao Yuliang explained. Right. Forget it. Anyway, I only spent 2,000 yuan on the car. I will buy another one when I come back. Qin Jinping also said. They didn't dare to tell the truth. There were no more accidents along the way. However, when they arrived at the seaside scenic area, Qiao Yuliang didn't stop the car. Instead, he kept driving forward. The further they went, the less people there were. Further ahead was the dangerous water area. There were warning signs on the roadside. The water was deep and the reefs were deep. You like to be cuckolded, right? Do you mean to make your fiancé like me? This? Qin Jinping was not a smart person. Otherwise he wouldn't be willing to be a lackey. He thought of this after being reminded by Xiao Chen. Before, he was thinking about Xiao Chen's previous performance and ignored that he had become Xin Jingshuan's fiancé. Jingxian, Jinping wants me to show off my ability to catch fish in front of you. He wants you to see how valiant I look. What do you think? Before Qin Jinping could reply, Xiao Chen turned to look at Xin Jingxian, who was chatting with the young mistress not far away. Ah. Xin Jingxian was stunned, but when she saw Qin Jinping's embarrassed look, she knew that Xiao Chen might not be talking nonsense. She hated Qin Jinping even more, but she quickly figured out the key point. Qiao Yuliang and Qin Jinping had been plotting to kill Xiao Chen. They didn't succeed last time, so they definitely wouldn't let it go. Although she wasn't clear about the plan this time, it seemed to be related to fishing. Otherwise, Qin Jinping wouldn't do this kind of action. It seems that your fiancé is very supportive of me. Then I will reluctantly go fishing. Xiao Chen said faintly. Qin Jinping wanted to say support my ass, but he didn't dare to say it. If he said it and Xiao Chen didn't go, then he would bear the humiliation for nothing. But you have to go far away to fish. Where are the sharks near the shore? Why don't you let Xin Jingxian sit on my boat? Otherwise, she won't be able to see my heroic appearance, and I won't have the motivation to fish. Xiao Chen suggested. Qin Jinping cursed in his heart. Let you and Xin Jingxian on the boat? Then wouldn't I be unable to take off my green hat? Thinking of this, Qin Jinping quickly said, No need, I will also go out to sea. I will drive the boat and pull her and follow behind you. Okay, do as you wish. Although Xiao Chen said so, he had a question mark in his heart. Earlier, he had asked Xin Jingxian to get on his boat because he wanted another protection. After all, the ocean was not like the continent. If she fell into the ocean, even though Xiao Chen was a cultivator, it would be difficult for him to deal with it. The best protection here was undoubtedly Xin Jingxian. If she went, Qin Jinping and Qiao Yuliang would definitely be against her together with him. As for the eldest lady, Qiao Yuliang had been crazy enough to kill her last time. Only Xin Jingxian of the Shen family could scare Qiao Yuliang. Although the Shen family was not a local family in Songning City, they were certainly not to be messed with. The Shen family was the birthplace of the Shen family, and they were deeply connected to the Warriors Guild. It was impossible for Qiao Yuliang to be reckless. Before, Xiao Chen had thought that Qiao Yuliang and Qin Jinping would play tricks on the boat, but it did not seem to be the case. Qin Jinping was going to go to sea with them too. Was there something wrong with only one boat? Seeing that Xiao Chen was going to go fishing for Xin Jingxian, Qing Minjing was more than infuriated. Why were you never so agile when I asked you to do anything? Xin Jingxian asked you to go fishing because of your valiant appearance? How infuriating. She did not know if he was really stupid or just pretending to be stupid. I already told him that there might be danger, but he was still fooled because he was obsessed with Xin Jingxian and ignored my advice. Qing Minjing did not think that Xin Jingxian was bad, but she was Xiao Chen's fiancée. Then shall we go to sea now? Qin Jinping wanted to end the battle quickly. Brother Liang will start the fire by the shore. Okay. Xiao Chen nodded indifferently. Chao Yuliang originally wanted to go to sea with Qin Jinping, but the fishing boat was a small one, and there was only space for 2 people on it, so he could only start the fire by the shore. In fact, starting a fire was not an easy job, especially when traveling. They would buy high-density compressed charcoal, which was very difficult to ignite. Even martial artists could not do it well and could only blow on it while lighting it. However, Chao Yuliang had boasted that he could do anything. Moreover, how could he let Xiao Chen do it? Then how could he kill him? Hey Bebe, Xiao Chen is too unreliable. He can't risk his life for Xin Jingxian, can he? Cheng Minjing complained to Jean Bebe unhappily. Oh, cousin Minjing is jealous. Jean Bebe said with a smile. Why are you not nervous? Not angry? Don't you like him? Cheng Minjing was a little curious about Jean Bebe's attitude. It was impossible for her not to see through Chao Yuliang's scheme. Don't worry. Brother-in-law is a transformer. It's fine. Jean Bebe, on the other hand, believed in Xiao Chen. In her opinion, Xiao Chen only agreed to go fishing because he was confident. Besides, he is fishing for me. Why should I be angry? Chapter 201. Cheng Minjing couldn't understand Jean Bebe's logic. Where did she get her confidence from? He's obviously trying to please Xin Jingxian. He's fishing for Bebe. Cousin-in-law is the best to Bebe. Xin Jingxian is just an excuse. Jean Bebe said. You're really confident. Cheng Minjing shook her head, feeling a little dissatisfied. This Xiao Chen is good to Xin Jingxian, Jean Bebe, Tang Tang and Kerlin, but not me. Although Xin Jingxian wasn't willing to go out to sea with Qin Jinping, she was also a little worried about Xiao Chen. She really wanted to persuade Xiao Chen not to do so, but Qin Jinping was next to him. She couldn't say anything, so she could only follow and see if there was anything she could help with. Boss Xiao Chen, which boat do you want? Qin Jinping pointed at the 2 fishing boats on the beach and asked. Oh, I want this one. Xiao Chen pointed at one of the boats and said. Okay. Qin Jinping nodded and was about to go to the other boat. Wait, I still want this one. This one's number is cooler, 18. It's going to be rich. The previous one was 13. Doesn't it mean it's going to flip? It's inauspicious. Xiao Chen changed to the other boat. Oh, that's fine too. Qin Jinping didn't care so much. In his opinion, Xiao Chen couldn't escape the fate of flipping over no matter which boat he chose. However, Xiao Chen was surprised. It seemed that Qin Jinping and Chao Yuliang didn't do anything to the fishing boat. Xiao Chen changed boats temporarily to test whether there was a problem with one of the boats. But in the end, there shouldn't be any problems. With Qin Jinping's scheming, it was impossible for him to not reveal anything. If it had been Chao Yuliang, Xiao Chen wouldn't have been so sure, but how could he not know what kind of person Qin Jinping was? After following him for so long, how could he not know? He was completely a villain with no shrewdness. Xiao Chen boarded the fishing boat 18 and adjusted the machine. This fishing boat was not much different from the previous speedboat. Xiao Chen also joined a yacht club before, so he was naturally familiar with it. However, this kind of small fishing boat was still very dangerous when going into the sea. It was fine if it encountered a shark, but if it encountered a group of sharks, it would definitely die because this boat was too small to withstand the attack. Duck, duck, duck. The sound of the motor sounded and Xiao Chen drove the fishing boat into the sea. Qin Jinping also carried Xin Jingxian and followed Xiao Chen into the sea. Umph. Cheng Minjing snorted coldly. It's okay. Cousin-in-law can handle it. Jean Bebe said indifferently. Since she discovered a lot of shocking things, she had full confidence in Xiao Chen. If he dies, who will cook for us? Cheng Minjing was a little absent-minded. On the surface, Chao Yuliang was trying to make a fire, but he was secretly observing Xiao Chen and Qin Jinping. Seeing that they had successfully entered the sea, a smile flashed across his mouth. Although there might be sharks in the nearby sea, it was not certain that there would be. After all, even if there was a hole in the protective net, a shark would have to be able to get in before the patrolling people found it. Otherwise the shark would definitely be searched and driven back. Xiao Chen drove the fishing boat into the sea and wandered aimlessly. Although he had not used a fishing gun, the principle of this thing was relatively simple. He just needed to shoot at sharks. With Xiao Chen's current strength he could easily control it. Moreover, Xiao Chen's six senses were powerful, so his accuracy was not worse than those professional fishermen. Qin Jinping leisurely followed behind Xiao Chen. His purpose was not to catch sharks but to witness Xiao Chen's death. He did not know if the people arranged by Li Shanning had arrived yet. Although Xiao Chen was going to die, Qin Jinping could not help but belittle him. Jingxian looked at Xiao Chen. He likes to show off. I guess he has never touched a fishing gun before. Now that you want to see it, he shows off. This kind of person is really unreliable. Don't say that about Xiao Chen, who doesn't have a young and aggressive time. Although Xin Jingxian said so, she was very puzzled. That night, when Xiao Chen sent her home, his words and actions did not show any desire for her. So, how could Xiao Chen show off in front of her to fish? It was completely unrealistic. Could it be that Xiao Chen deliberately pretended before to attract her attention, and when he realized that he failed to attract her attention he started to attract her attention again? Xin Jingxian felt that Xiao Chen should not be so bored. If Xin Jingxian did not have that night's contact, she might think so. But now Xin Jingxian felt that Xiao Chen did things with a purpose. He would not do things that did not benefit him, and it was impossible for him to take risks for a girl. But Qin Jinping wanted to say that it was not worth it to lose his life because of a young and aggressive time, but he stopped in time. If Xin Jingxian knew the truth it would be a big deal. She was not one of them, so she could not tell Qing Menjiang. Just as they were talking, Qin Jinping heard the sound of a motor in the distance. He turned his head and couldn't help but be happy. Two yachts were speeding in this direction. These two yachts were driven by Li Shanning and Lin Chao. Not only was Lin Chao good at racing but he was also good at racing. Li Shanning was a martial artist so he could drive a yacht. But in today's plan he was only an assistant, and Lin Chao was the executor. These two yachts were modified. They were very sturdy, especially the bow. The balancing ability was also modified. This was a yacht used in the underground racing black market to participate in the underground competition. If it was not sturdy, it would not be able to participate at all. It would have been smashed by others. Both of them were wearing large sunglasses, so from the appearance they would not be recognized. Moreover, Xiao Chen and Xin Jingxian had not seen Lin Chao and Li Shanning, so they would not suspect their origin. Hey buddy, let's have a match? Lin Chao shouted to Xiao Chen from afar. Xiao Chen glanced at the yacht that Lin Chao and Li Shanning were driving over. He could not help but frown. Where did these two people come from? What are they doing here? This was a dangerous area nearby. Xiao Chen did not believe that these two people did not know. Wasn't it crazy to drive the yacht so far? Not interested. Xiao Chen said faintly. F***ck, you guys are quite arrogant, huh? Lin Chao spat out a swear word sarcastically. What? Are you looking down on your brother? There is also a little girl here. She is quite pretty. Li Shanning also came over at this time and said, let's have a match? Win 100,000 yuan or the little girl can stay. The little girl was naturally Xin Jingxian. Qin Jinping also had the mentality of watching a show at this time. He pretended to be angry and said to Xiao Chen, Boss Xiao Chen, let's have a match with them. F***ck, how dare they make fun of your goddess? Isn't that your fiancée? Did you give her to me? Xiao Chen glanced at Qin Jinping and understood in his heart. These two people were most likely sent by Chao Yuliang and Qin Jinping to deal with him. They threw him into the water in this sea in the middle of nowhere. With his previous strength, even if the sharks did not come, there was absolutely no possibility of survival. F***ck, what's wrong? Are you ignoring me? Lin Chao saw that Xiao Chen did not pay attention to him, and suddenly became angry. He came to cause trouble. Of course, he would not let go of this opportunity to cause trouble. He circled the yacht around Xiao Chen's fishing boat and then scolded, one sentence, do you want to compete? Xiao Chen knew that whether he competed or not, the other party would play tricks. It was meaningless. It was better not to compete. He wanted to see what tricks the other party could play, so he said lightly, I am catching sharks. I don't have time to care about you. If you are willing to compete, look, that guy is more excited than me. Go to him. Xiao Chen pointed in the direction of Qin Jinping and said, quite arrogant, huh? You don't want to compete, right? Lin Chao started the yacht and directly crashed in the direction of Xiao Chen. Although Xiao Chen did not know how to race an underground boat, it was the same as driving. Xiao Chen was already familiar with the operation of the fishing boat. He could do some very precise control, but he was not willing to show it before. Now that Lin Xiao rushed over, Xiao Chen instantly calculated the distance and time. He directly turned the bow and dodged it easily. Lin Xiao was slightly stunned. He did not expect that not only did Xiao Chen know how to race, but he also drove the yacht very well. This was a bit rare. Generally, these young masters played with cars. Those who played with yachts only knew how to drive. They did not have the movements and reactions of these underground racing boats. However, Xiao Chen's reaction was very fast, which surprised Lin Xiao a little. However, he was not worried. Racing in the sea was different from racing on land. Their yacht was professionally modified. Whether it was speed or flexibility, it was higher than Xiao Chen's. If they really competed, he and Li Shanning attacked Xiao Chen from the front and back. No matter how good Xiao Chen was, he could not escape. The yacht's performance was there. You could not surpass it no matter what. Tuck tuck tuck. Lin Xiao swung the tail and changed the direction of the yacht. He rushed toward Xiao Chen again. Xiao Chen still avoided it easily. At this moment, Lin Xiao was really angry. He no longer played with Xiao Chen. He crashed toward Xiao Chen horizontally. Xiao Chen could easily avoid it, but if he chased from behind vertically, it would be difficult for Xiao Chen to avoid it. You really have some skills? Li Shanning also started the yacht at this time and chased after Xiao Chen. Seeing this situation, Xiao Chen immediately cried out inwardly. When he was racing, his car was professionally modified. It was not a problem for him to win against Li Shantao. However, in the sea this fishing boat was not as nimble. Its speed was also slow. He could barely avoid a person chasing after him, but if two people attacked at the same time, he would not be able to handle it. It was not realistic to simply rely on technology to avoid because the opponent's technology was not bad. The yacht was obviously several times better than Xiao Chen's fishing boat. What should I do? Xiao Chen's mind raced. Previously he was thinking that Xiao Yuliang had done something to the yacht, but he didn't expect that he would get two people to attack him. It was obvious that the two of them wanted to overturn his boat and make him fall into the sea. Since the shark had coincidentally appeared, Xiao Chen could not help but be suspicious. Elder Heaven Ancestor, what should I do now? Xiao Chen asked in a hurry. He had never encountered this kind of situation before. This was different from the fight on the land. If he was not careful, he would fall into the sea. What should I do? What else can I do? Fall into the sea and kill the shark, then swim back. Elder Heaven Ancestor said indifferently. Shark? Kill it? Xiao Chen was slightly dazed. With your strength at the peak of level 4 of Qi refining stage, you still can't kill a shark. You are too weak. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. How can I kill it? Even a level 5 inner strength martial artist might not be able to kill it, right? Xiao Chen smiled bitterly. I can't affect the will of a high-level martial artist, but isn't it easy to affect a shark with no IQ? Elder Heaven Ancestor said indifferently, if I make it motionless, can you kill it? I can definitely. Xiao Chen was a bit speechless. Don't mention a shark, even if there was a more ferocious beast there and made it motionless, Xiao Chen would still be able to kill it easily. At most, he would just have to hit it a few more times. Then that's it. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, what are you worried about? I'm worried. I might not be able to swim. Xiao Chen said. You can hold your breath for an hour and you won't die. After you improved your 6 senses in level 2 of Qi refining stage, you can hold your breath for an hour. Elder Heaven Ancestor said with some disappointment, besides, sharks have low IQ. Are you also low IQ? What is your Yuan Qi used for? Don't you know that it can be converted into oxygen? Yes, it can be converted. Xiao Chen was shocked, but he smiled bitterly. I've only been cultivating for less than a month. Give me some time to adapt. So, you might as well kill that Chen brat by throwing him into the sea. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, his brother died in a car accident. I think it's a good idea to let him die in a boat accident. Xiao Chen didn't expect Elder Heaven Ancestor to be so black-bellied. In fact, he didn't know that Elder Heaven Ancestor was also a ruthless person who killed people without blinking an eye. However, Elder Heaven Ancestor's suggestion was good, but Xiao Chen was a bit worried. What about Xin Jingxian? Isn't that your goddess? Don't say she isn't, I can read your memory. Elder Heaven Ancestor directly blocked Xiao Chen's possibility of replying. Don't you know how to be a hero and save the damsel in distress? Then take her to a small island and take her down. And that Chen brat wore a green hat before he died, so he won't have to worry about not having a green hat anymore. Pfft. Xiao Chen realized that Elder Heaven Ancestor was quite sarcastic. Of course, although Xiao Chen wasn't as wretched as Elder Heaven Ancestor, he didn't plan to let Qin Jinping go. He couldn't hold on for long. Although he dodged here and there with his powerful boat skills, Xiao Chen knew that he couldn't hold on for long. This wasn't something that could be done with human strength. Although he could set up illusions, the location of the illusions was fixed. When the motorboat sailed past the location of the illusions, there wouldn't be any more illusions. Xiao Chen couldn't keep setting them up. It wouldn't take long for his vitality to be exhausted. The sea was completely different from land. Even if they rushed into the illusions, they would at most cause a temporary loss, but there wouldn't be any danger to their lives. Damn. There's a shark. Qin Jinping didn't expect that there would really be a shark in the sea, and he was shocked. He was simply here to join in the fun. At this time, Li Shanning and Lin Chao were besieging Xiao Chen. If he went to catch the shark now, it would be equivalent to looking for death. Li Shanning and Lin Chao didn't care about Qin Jinping's words, but Xiao Chen heard it. A sneer flashed across the corner of his mouth. He had already made a plan in his heart. The shark was obviously very hungry. It couldn't get out of this area of the sea, and it couldn't find the entrance that it came from. However, there wasn't anything that it could eat in the coastal waters, so it was very hungry. Coincidentally, this shark belonged to the group that had some intelligence. When it saw the small boat drifting on the sea, it swam towards the small boat, wanting to overturn the yacht. Qin Jinping was shocked. The other people's yachts were moving, but only his was parked in the middle of the sea, so it naturally became the shark's first target. Therefore, Qin Jinping quickly started the yacht. He didn't dare to go head-on with the shark, but he didn't dare to drive too fast. He could only move slowly to avoid the shark. He was afraid that if he drove too fast, it would affect Lin Chao and Li Shanying's plan to collide with Xiao Chen. Jinping, tell them that the shark is here, so stop fooling around. Otherwise, if the boat overturns, no one will benefit. Qin Jingshan said to Qin Jinping. Oh. Qin Jinping responded, but he didn't have time to care about Xiao Chen's matter. He was afraid that he would be knocked into the sea, and that would be F***ed. However, what made Qin Jinping a little surprised was that Xiao Chen suddenly changed the direction of the fishing boat and rushed towards Qin Jinping. Qin Jinping was shocked and quickly dodged. He cursed in his heart. This Xiao Chen, he doesn't want to live anymore, but he still wants to implicate me. What King D***ck? Just as he was about to dodge, he suddenly realized that the direction he was dodging was the direction of the shark that was about to attack him. This made him almost pee in his pants. Just as Qin Jinping didn't know what to do, Xiao Chen's yacht suddenly changed direction and went around him. It was just like drifting in a race car. It was very rare to be able to do this. After all, only professional rowers could do it. In the water, it wasn't like on land. The yacht was harder to control than a car. Phew. Qin Jinping breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that with the goddess Qin Jingshan on the boat, Xiao Chen still had to be careful. However, just as Qin Jinping breathed a sigh of relief, he was screwed. Lin Chao was a professional rower, so Xiao Chen went around Qin Jinping and he also went around Qin Jinping. However, Li Shanying, who was running neck and neck with him, wasn't so lucky. On his left was Lin Chao. He subconsciously wanted to dodge to the right, but he found that there was a shark in front of him. He quickly turned the rudder, but it was too late. So, with a loud bang, his yacht directly hit Qin Jinping's fishing boat. Li Shanying's yacht was specially modified with the purpose of killing Xiao Chen. As a result, it hit Qin Jinping's side. Qin Jinping's fishing boat was the same as Xiao Chen's. It wasn't very sturdy, so the result was a tragedy. Qin Jinping's yacht was directly hit and sent flying. After it fell into the water, it flipped over. At the same time, Xiao Chen slowed down to avoid Qin Jinping. So, after Lin Chao caught up, he directly hit Xiao Chen's yacht and sent it flying. Splash! Xiao Chen also fell into the water. Qin Jingshan screamed. She didn't know how to swim, so she struggled a few times in the sea and was about to sink. Although Qin Jinping knew how to swim, he panicked at this time. When he remembered to save Qin Jingshan, the two of them were already very far away. So, he watched as Qin Jingshan sank into the sea. As for Xiao Chen, although he could float to the surface of the water, he didn't do so. If he fell into the water, he would directly sink. He was afraid that if he surfaced, Lin Chao would hit him again. He would be depressed. When flesh and blood collided with a yacht, it was inevitable that he would be injured. Even if Xiao Chen could recover quickly, he was in the sea. If Qin Jinping took the opportunity to shoot him with a fishing rod, it would be a tragedy. If Qin Jinping died, then so be it. It had nothing to do with Xiao Chen, but Qin Jingshan was innocent. Thinking of this, Xiaochen quickly swam in the direction where Shen Jingxian fell into the water. Chapter 203. Save me, there are sharks. There are sharks. Although Qin Jinping could swim, the key problem was that there were sharks in the sea. Li Shanning frowned. To be honest, if Qin Jinping died together, it didn't have much to do with him. But when he thought of Chao Yuliang, he also drove the motorboat to Qin Jinping's side and said, "Climb up yourself." Okay. Qin Jinping was a martial artist at the peak of the second stage of internal force. It was easy for him to jump onto the yacht from the sea. He quickly got on the boat and shivered. He suddenly thought of Shen Jingxian and quickly said, "Young Master Li, save Jingxian. She is my fiancée." Save her? Looking at her appearance just now, she obviously doesn't know, right? What if we save her? We obviously wanted to kill you and now we save you. Do you think she won't suspect anything? Li Shanning said faintly. Qin Jinping's expression was stagnant. Li Shanning was telling the truth, but he couldn't bear to part with Shen Jingxian. Shen Jingxian was Xiao Chen's goddess. Wasn't she his goddess? Qin Jinping now had a beauty in his arms. He didn't want to die without even holding her hand. I promise that she won't say anything. Save her. Young Master Li. Qin Jinping quickly promised. It's too late. She has sunk to the bottom. There are sharks nearby. Who dares to save her? Do you go alone? Li Shanning asked. This. Qin Jinping was stunned. Yes, Shen Jingxian has sunk. How can I save her? Unless I go into the water, but there are sharks in the water. Who dares to go down? Thinking of this, Qin Jinping was helpless, but he could only give up. Well, let's go. Get out of here, there are sharks. Actually, even without Qin Jinping's reminder, Li Shanning and Lin Chao had already decided to return. Although their clothes were sturdy and had been professionally modified, it was still unknown who would emerge victorious in a head-on clash with a shark. Therefore, the two yachts disappeared without a trace. Under the water, Xiaochen opened his eyes. His keen sixth senses did not affect his eyesight underwater at all. He could easily see everything around him clearly underwater. This was the super ability brought about by the second layer of the Cultivator stage. He saw Shen Jingxian not far away and found that Shen Jingxuan's face had turned red. He was shocked and quickly swam over. When Xiaochen swam to Shen Jingxuan's side, Shen Jingxian could not hold on anymore. Fortunately, she had trained since she was young. Although she could not swim, she could at least hold her breath. She thought that Qin Jinping would come to save her because she had specially looked at Qin Jinping's information before. This fiancé of hers was once an elite member of the school's swimming team. It should not be a problem for him to save her. However, after waiting for a long time until she was about to see stars, Qin Jinping did not come. Shen Jingxian also understood that Qin Jinping had probably given up on her. Of course, other than being a little disappointed, Shen Jingxian did not feel much sadness. She did not have any feelings for Qin Jinping, so she did not have the hatred of being abandoned by her lover. She was just laughing at herself. This was the marriage between aristocratic families. In the face of disaster, they would go their separate ways. Am I going to die? Shen Jingxuan's mind began to become blank because of the lack of oxygen. She had some regrets. In her short life, every day she lived under the arrangement of her family. She never had anything for herself. Suddenly, Shen Jingxian thought of the first time she lied. That was because of Xiaochen. That night, Xiaochen sent her home. Thinking of Xiaochen, Shen Jingxuan's heart suddenly had a touch of the same feeling. This person is really unfathomable. Shen Jingxian had always thought that Xiaochen was a playboy like Chao Yuliang. But looking at it now, it did not seem to be the case. He seemed to be obsessed with her to the point of being unable to extricate himself, but he seemed to be able to ignore her to the point of turning a blind eye. What a strange person. Shen Jingxian thought that if she could live again, she would definitely investigate Xiaochen. What a strange guy. However, the moment she fell into the water, she saw that Xiaochen was also knocked into the water. Perhaps she could still meet him in the underworld? It was not lonely on the bridge of helplessness. Shen Jingxian was thinking about some messy things in a daze when a pair of strong big hands suddenly hugged her. Then she bumped into a not considered wide but very strong arm. Shen Jingxian instinctively leaned over, and her four limbs suddenly grabbed Xiaochen. In fact, this was the survival will of the person who fell into the water. At this time, if there was something that could be grabbed, she would definitely grab it. Many people were like this. Why did many people who were good at swimming die when they tried to save people who fell into the water? It was because the person who fell into the water directly grabbed him and wrapped him tightly like an octopus, making people who could swim unable to use their skills. Xiaochen was fine. He could hold his breath underwater, but Xin Jingxian couldn't. Seeing that Xin Jingxian was about to die, Xiaochen gritted his teeth and didn't care so much. He quickly used his vital energy to transform a mouthful of air, and then directly kissed Xin Jingxuan's lips. In a daze, Xin Jingxian felt as if someone was kissing her. She subconsciously wanted to break free, but then a mouthful of air was sent into her mouth, which made Xin Jingxian suck greedily. The will to survive was greater than everything. This was all out of instinct, but when a few breaths entered her lungs, the stuffiness in her chest suddenly decreased a lot. After a few more breaths, Xin Jingxian gradually returned to normal. His brain was also starting to shine brightly. Xin Jingxian opened her eyes subconsciously. Although it was very uncomfortable to open her eyes underwater, she could only open them and close them immediately. But she still saw who the person in front of her was. Xiaochen. It was actually Xiaochen. The shock in Xin Jingxuan's heart was more than the surprise of being saved. She never thought that the person who came to save her was actually Xiaochen. Moreover, why was there so much air in Xiaochen's mouth? However, Xin Jingxian wanted to ask, but she didn't dare to speak. Firstly, her mouth was blocked by Xiaochen's. Secondly, how could she speak underwater? Wouldn't she choke on water? So she could only blink her eyes in confusion. If it was in the past, when Xiaochen kissed the goddess of his dreams, Xin Jingxian, he would definitely be very excited. But now, Xiaochen didn't have the mood to fantasize because the shark was here. The shark was shocked when Li Shanying and Lin Chao's yacht collided with it. The loud noise and the waves made it temporarily hide far away, so it didn't see Xiaochen and Xin Jingxian. But now that the sea had calmed down, the shark discovered Xin Jingxian and Xiaochen. Xiaochen quickly hugged Xin Jingxian and changed her position so that her back wasn't facing the shark. However, Xin Jingxuan's whole body was hanging on Xiaochen's body. When Xiaochen reached out, he inevitably held onto Xin Jingxuan's buttocks. Xin Jingxian suddenly blushed. She opened her eyes to see what Xiaochen wanted to do, but when she opened her eyes, she saw the shark and was shocked. And she also understood that Xiaochen didn't want to take advantage of her, but something more dangerous was coming. Xiaochen transferred air to Xin Jingxian and said to Elder Heaven Ancestor, "Elder Heaven Ancestor, help me control the shark. I'll kill it." "Oh, okay," Elder Heaven Ancestor said calmly. Sure enough, the shark's eyes were dazed, and it foolishly stopped moving motionless. Xiaochen hugged Xin Jingxian with one hand and swung his other hand into a fist. He directly exploded with the strength of the peak of Qi refining stage level 4, which was equivalent to a level 5 inner force martial artist. Boom! The fist hit the shark's face. However, with Xiaochen's current strength, it was impossible to kill the shark with one punch, so he simply punched continuously. He didn't believe that he couldn't kill the shark. Xiaochen's explosive strength was equivalent to the strength of a level 5 inner force martial artist, and it immediately attracted Xin Jingxuan's attention. Although she wasn't even a level 1 inner force martial artist, she was like Cheng Minjing. Since young, she had heard about the martial artist's levels. When she realized that this was the explosive strength of Xiaochen, she was a little surprised. Xiaochen. Wasn't he a waste? Wasn't he unable to cultivate inner force? How could he have such high strength? Among the younger generation of Songning City, he should be the top existence, right? Such a young genius, did the Qing family not want him? Even the Xiao family was chased out by him? Xin Jingxian felt that it was really unbelievable. Wasn't this too amazing? Moreover, the shark just let Xiaochen hit it without moving? This kind of creature, which was like the king of the sea, was actually bullied by Xiaochen. How was this possible? This was already beyond Xin Jingxuan's understanding. Could it be? The shark was stunned by Xiaochen, so it didn't move? Thinking about it, this was the only possibility. However, it was Xin Jingxuan's first time hearing and seeing a martial artist who dared to fight a shark with his bare hands underwater. Alright, Xiaochen, the shark is already dead, stop fighting. Elder Heaven Ancestor reminded. Oh, how did you know? Xiaochen was afraid that the shark was not dead. I can't feel it anymore and I can't control its will. If it's not dead, then what is? Elder Heaven Ancestor asked. Alright, let's go, you have consumed a lot of your true qi. If you want to die here, then I don't care. Xiaochen was suddenly shocked and then remembered that before Xin Jingxian had transformed the air, and then he struggled to beat the shark, and Elder Heaven Ancestor had used up a lot of his true qi to control the shark. There really wasn't much left. Thinking of this, Xiaochen quickly grabbed the shark with one hand, and the other hand carried Xin Jingxian, ready to leave here quickly. Where are you going? Elder Heaven Ancestor suddenly asked. Going back to the shore, of course. Xiaochen said. You can't go back, it's too far. There is an isolated island in front of you on the left. I suggest you go there first to rest and replenish your true chi, otherwise, you will definitely die in the sea. Elder Heaven Ancestor immediately reminded Xiao Qin. Chapter 204. Ah. Xiao Qin was stunned. I can't go back? How far is that isolated island? Not far. You just have to swim 45 degrees to the left and you will reach it. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. How do you know? Xiao Qin didn't see any isolated island when he was driving the yacht. Oh, I just used your divine sense and spiritual power to explore it. I used up all your primordial chi. Otherwise you could still swim back. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. Xiao Qin was speechless. Did the Elder Heaven Ancestor do it on purpose? If there was no isolated island, wouldn't I be dead? You won't die. You can practice underwater, but your goddess is in danger. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, Of course, she has nothing to do with me. Xiao Qin smiled bitterly. Then he started to swim to the right at a 45-degree angle. Since it was already like this, what else could he say? It was the first time that Xin Jingxian was so intimate with a boy. Not only was she being hugged, but the key was, their lips were tightly pressed together. Although it was similar to artificial respiration, and it was a life-saving move, Xin Jingxian still had a strange feeling in her heart. She couldn't see Xiao Qin clearly. She couldn't believe that the person in front of her was Xiao Qin. Could it be that Xiao Qin had always been so powerful and he was just hiding his strength before? Other than that, Xin Jingxian really couldn't think of any other possibilities. Xiao Qin's level 5 inner force couldn't be practiced overnight. He must have been through strict training and hard work since he was young. However, the Xiao clan shouldn't be in the dark about this. What was going on? Could it be that the Qing family and the Xiao family actually knew, but they saw that Xiao Chen and Qing Menjing didn't see eye to eye, so they deliberately played such a show? The purpose was to let Xiao Qin, the servant, have more contact with Qing Menjing and cultivate feelings? Then, was he the culprit behind all of this? If Xiao Qin didn't like me, he wouldn't have done this. He would have been with Qing Menjing. But I'm so intimate with him now. In the future, how can I face Qing Menjing? Xiao Qin estimated that Qin Jinping and the others would not come back, so he popped his head out of the sea. To be honest, the continuous air conversion for Xin Jingxian consumed a lot of yuan qi. Xiao Qin didn't want to exhaust his yuan qi before he swam to the island. Elder Heaven Ancestor could ignore Xin Jingxian, but Xiao Qin couldn't. Xiao Qin was the first girl who made him very interested and fascinated. Although Xiao Qin never thought that he could get intimate with her one day, he did it now. However, Xiao Qin wouldn't put both of them in danger because of greed. In the face of life and death, he was still a reasonable person. Xiao Qin floated to the surface of the water and observed his surroundings. He heaved a sigh of relief when he discovered that there was indeed no danger. However, as for the fishing boat, it had disappeared without a trace. Even if it didn't disappear, it couldn't be used anymore. It had been smashed. After the investigation, Xiao Qin suddenly remembered that his lips were still touching Xin Jingxuan's lips. He awkwardly leaned back and separated from Xin Jingxian. Xin Jingxian was shocked. She suddenly remembered that they were already out of the water, but she didn't take the initiative to move her lips away. This made her blush and she was very embarrassed. Just now when they were underwater, she had no choice. She needed air to breathe. But now that they were out of the sea, she was still like this. Do I like this feeling? Seems. The feeling just now was really good. Xin Jingxian shook her head. What am I thinking about? I have already let Qing Menjing down. Why am I still thinking about these things? Xin Jingxian firmly believed that Xiao Qin was driven out of the family to become Qing Menjing's servant. It was a trap set up by the Xiao family and the Qing family. The purpose was to make it easier for Xiao Qin to get close to Qing Menjing. Because there was a very popular TV series, Campus Belle's Bodyguard. Recently, there was a similar plot, so Xin Jingxian naturally thought of this. However, she neglected that this was her first kiss and it was gone just like that. I'm sorry, Goddess Jingxian. I had no choice just now. I was also trying to save you. Xiao Qin saw that Xin Jingxuan's eyes were a little dazed. He thought that she was going to cry or go crazy, so he quickly explained. Xin Jingxian listened to Xiao Qin's explanation, but she didn't blame him. She just looked at him with some reproach. I know, but it's not good for us to do this. We are going to die. What's there to not be good for? Xiao Qin grinned, and Qin Jinping was willing to be a cuckold. That was what he said himself. I hate him. I didn't marry him. Xin Jingxian shook her head. Why is there so much air in your mouth? Oh, I have practiced. Xiao Chen said, you don't know how much pressure it is to be a useless young master. I have been worried about being assassinated since I was young, so I have to practice all kinds of survival skills. If a martial artist with level 5 inner energy is useless, then can there still be geniuses in the aristocratic families in Songning City? Xin Jingxian flattened her mouth. You are really good at lying. Sweat. Xiao Chen suddenly remembered that Xin Jingxian saw him fighting the shark in the water previously. He couldn't help but sigh. Zhu Yingxiong knew his strength, and Xiao Chen trusted him very much. Other than that, no one knew that Xiao Chen had such strength and wasn't a useless person. Xin Jingxian was the second. This made Xiao Chen a little embarrassed. To be honest, his relationship with Xin Jingxian wasn't particularly close. At that time he pursued Xin Jingxian all day. Perhaps Xin Jingxian was annoyed enough? Therefore the relationship between the two was only passable. This was after he sent Xin Jingxian home. If it were another person, Xiao Chen might have killed them, but he really couldn't do it to Xin Jingxian. You will keep it a secret for me, right? Not knowing why, Xin Jingxian heard Xiao Chen's somewhat helpless tone, her heart shivered. If not, will you kill me to keep it a secret? Xiao Chen took a deep breath and looked at Xin Jingxian. A trace of helplessness flashed in his eyes. No, you are the girl I used to like very, very much. Xiao Chen's words instantly touched the softness in Xin Jingxuan's heart. She fell into Xiao Chen's arms powerlessly and asked, then, what about now? There is no now. Xiao Chen sighed and said faintly, this assumption is a bit far. It was impossible for me and you before. Now, it is even more impossible, so I'd better be realistic. Xin Jingxian didn't know why, but after hearing Xiao Chen's words, she suddenly felt very uncomfortable in her heart. She had an urge to cry. Not knowing where the courage came from, Xin Jingxuan's body suddenly sank down. Previously, Xiao Chen had been holding Xin Jingxuan's buttocks, but that was because they were swimming rapidly in the water. He was afraid that Xin Jingxian would fall off him, but now that they were floating on the water it was safe. Xiao Chen couldn't keep taking advantage of Xin Jingxian, not to mention that Xin Jingxian was still hanging on him, so he didn't pay attention. However, now that Xin Jingxian let go, she fell down. Xiao Chen was shocked and quickly sank into the water again. Because he was still holding a shark, Xiao Chen's speed was not slow, but he still fell more than 10 meters before he caught up with Xin Jingxian and grabbed her. Xin Jingxuan's face at the moment was also a bit ugly, as if she was out of oxygen. As soon as Xiao Chen grabbed her, Xin Jingxuan's body naturally leaned over and fell into Xiao Chen's arms. Her lips also naturally stuck to Xiao Chen's mouth. Xiao Chen was a little dumbfounded. What is this situation? Xin Jingxian was fine. How did she sink into the sea again? Could it be that she grabbed me too hard before and when she floated to the water she lost her strength and fell down again? Thinking about it, there was only this possibility. Other than that, Xiao Chen couldn't think of anything else. Xiao Chen quickly began to use his primordial qi to transform the air into Xin Jingxuan's mouth. Xin Jingxuan's face slowly improved. She opened her eyes and looked at Xiao Chen. Her eyes were a little blurred. At this moment, Xin Jingxuan's heart was beating fast. Although Xiao Chen also felt it, he thought that Xin Jingxuan's heart was beating faster because she fell into the sea. In fact, Xin Jingxuan's heart was really confused. Is this the feeling of liking someone? Xin Jingxian didn't know. Since she was born she had always been a good girl. Her heart was as still as water. She had never liked any boy, nor had she paid attention to anyone. She was also resigned to her family's engagement because she didn't know what love was, and she didn't have anyone she liked. Therefore, she naturally wouldn't fight against the arrangement of her family. But now, Xin Jingxian suddenly found that she fell in love with Xiao Chen's embrace. Sometimes, in just an instant, one's impression and perception of a person could undergo earth-shattering changes. In the past, whatever Xiao Chen said, although she would listen patiently and smile at him, she had never taken it to heart. Now, a casual sentence from Xiao Chen could make her heart ache, and make a move that made her feel very irrational and surprised. However, after Xin Jingxuan's impulse, she also regained her rationality. In her eyes, Xiao Chen and Cheng Menjing were a couple, and Cheng Menjing was her best friend. How could she do something that would let Cheng Menjing down? When Xiao Chen brought Xin Jingxian to the surface of the water, Xin Jingxuan's mood also recovered its previous calmness. Although she was a little reluctant in her heart, she still pretended that nothing had happened. She shook her head, leaned back and separated from Xiao Chen's lips. Chapter 205. Jingxian, what's wrong with you? Xiaoqun saw that Jingxian had returned to normal and asked quickly. Nothing. My leg suddenly cramped just now and I was a little weak. I didn't hold you for a while and I fell. Jingxian smiled slightly and shook her head. She returned to her usual sunny self. You didn't hold me tightly. I'm going to die. When I go back, I will complain to your hostess that you murdered her best friend. Sweat, you're dead. How can I complain? Xiaoqun couldn't help but smile bitterly after listening. Didn't I save you? Hold me? I didn't say that you took advantage of me. I know you did it to save me. I'm not that unreasonable. Jingxian said to Xiaoqun, I won't talk nonsense to Qing Minjing, including everything about you. Is Jingxuan's words a hint? She wants to tell Xiaoqun that she won't say anything about him. Qin Jinping's matter, what do you think? Xiaoqun nodded, held Jingxuan's buttocks with his hand and swam forward with her. Qin Jinping? Jingxian was slightly stunned. Don't tell me that you didn't see that he was the one who found those two people. Xiaoqun said. He also couldn't bear to see his former goddess marry a scumbag. Especially after he had intimate contact with Jingxian, Xiaoqun was even more unwilling. This kind of mentality was very strange. It seemed that Jingxian had become Xiaoqun's private property. Jingxian responded, I know, but what can I do? I don't have any evidence. I can only find a chance to tell my family to cancel this marriage. Xiaoqun nodded. Jingxian was right. She had no evidence. Moreover, Xiaoqun didn't intend to fall out with Chao Yuliang and Qin Jinping for the time being. Once they fell out, Chao Yuliang would be desperate. If the masters of the Chao family jumped out to kill him, then Xiaoqun would be a fool. He was still very rational. He didn't do anything impulsive because of the skyrocketing strength. Now Chao Yuliang was maintaining a balance because of the Jin family. But once Chao Yuliang knew that he had suspected him, then Chao Yuliang would definitely take the risk. So from this point of view, Jingxuan's approach was right. Then don't mention this matter again. However, the matter of breaking off the engagement can be postponed. Or you can help me be an undercover and see how Qin Jinping and Chao Yuliang will deal with me next time. Xiaoqun thought about it and suggested. Are you willing to do that? Jingxian blurted out subconsciously. And? Xiaoqun was stunned. I mean, am I not your goddess? Will you be happy when you see me with someone else? Jingxian explained euphemistically. My life is gone. Why should I be happy? Xiaoqun smiled self-deprecatingly and said, Moreover, you and Qin Jinping are together. He doesn't dare to do anything to you, but it's nothing. I just said it casually. You should break off the engagement first. It will take some time to break off the engagement. It can't be broken off immediately. Jingxian listened to Xiaoqun, and her heart suddenly felt much better. After we go back, pretend that nothing happened. If they ask how we were rescued, just say that a sea patrol ship passed by here. Xiaoqun said. Oh. Jingxian responded. She didn't seem to be particularly happy. You can rest assured that I won't say anything to get you into trouble. Xiaoqun was slightly stunned. What he meant was that he would not say anything about him profaning Jingxian. After all, if something happened between him and a goddess like Jingxian, it would be quite a hot topic. If he bragged about it to other childs, others would definitely be jealous and hate him. Xiaoqun was not that kind of person. Although he used to pretend to be such a person, he had changed now. He disguised himself as Jin Beibei. It was more practical to cheat money out of others. However, what Xiaoqun didn't expect was that Jingxian actually said that she wouldn't say anything because she was afraid of getting him into trouble. But what trouble could he get into? Xiaoqun thought that Jingxian just said it casually, so he didn't pay much attention to it. Not long after, Xiaoqun saw a deserted island not far away. It was right in front of him, but in reality, it was just an illusion. There was still some distance between them. Weren't you swimming toward the shore? Jingxian also saw the island and was a little surprised. She had always thought that Xiaoqun was swimming toward the shore. After all, it was easy to get lost in the sea. Jingxian had never learned how to survive in the wild, so she naturally couldn't judge the direction. How the hell would I know where the shore is? Xiaoqun naturally wouldn't admit that he knew about the deserted island. Firstly, Jingxian would ask him how he knew. Secondly, it wouldn't be good if Jingxian thought that he deliberately came to the deserted island with ulterior motives. After all, it was hard for Xiaoqun to explain the primordial qi in the elder heaven ancestor. Don't curse. Jingxian said to Xiaoqun, then we are lucky to encounter a small island. Otherwise, I don't know how long we would have to drift. Yeah, no matter what, let's have a foothold first and then think of other ways. Xiao Qin nodded and accelerated his swimming speed. Finally, after half an hour, Xiao Qin approached the shore of the island. However, the island on this side was surrounded by rocks. There was no beach. It was easy for Xiao Qin to go ashore, but it was difficult for Xin Jingxian. "Can you go up?" asked Xiao Qin. "I'll try." Xin Jingxian hesitated, but she tried to touch the rocky cliff on the shore with her hand. It was very smooth from the impact of the sea, so there was no point of force at all. "No, I can't hold it." Therefore, Xin Jingshuan's skirt was directly buckled on Xiao Qian's head, and her small abdomen was directly aimed at the side of Xiao Qian's mouth. Xin Jingxian was dumbfounded. Xiao Qian was also dumbfounded. Was this the legendary difficult ride Yanai? Xin Jingxian subconsciously wanted to break free, but when she twisted her body, she rubbed against Xiao Qian's mouth. A strange feeling made Xin Jingshuan's whole body feel like it was paralyzed and she couldn't move. Although it was the salty taste of the sea that entered his mouth, Xiao Qian's heart was extremely excited. *CK, who would believe this if I told others? However, Xiao Qian also knew that Xin Jingxian didn't mean it. It was completely accidental. If he took advantage of the situation to do something, Xin Jingxian might grit her teeth and admit it, but Xiao Qian wasn't such a shameless person. Especially Xin Jingxian, who used to be like a goddess in his heart. He could only look at her from afar and not play with her. Phew. Xiao Qian stretched out his hand and held Xin Jingxian again. He lifted her high and said, "Are you okay just now? Be more careful this time, okay?" Originally, Xin Jingxian was also quite embarrassed, but when she heard that there was nothing strange in Xiao Qian's words, she breathed a sigh of relief and said, "I'm sorry, I slipped. I didn't hit you, right?" "No," Xiao Qian said with a smile. Then he added, "However, I don't mind doing it again. You're so annoying." Xin Jingshuan's feet trembled. She almost did it again, but did she really want to do it again? The feeling of her heart racing just now made Xin Jingxian feel nostalgic. Chapter 206. However, Xin Jingshuan's reason told her that she couldn't do this. She felt that she must be out of her mind. How could she have such an unhealthy thought? Why with Xiao Qian? If Cheng Minjing knew about it, what would happen in the future? Could they still be best friends? Xin Jingxian was a little worried for a while. She had never had such a feeling for any boy. Her impression of Xiao Qian was not particularly good. Even if it changed, it didn't change much. However, what happened today had completely overturned Xin Jingshuan's understanding of Xiao Qian. She had never imagined that an ignorant and incompetent good-for-nothing hedonistic young master would have such a shocking side. She also never thought that she would be moved by him. This feeling was very strange. Xin Jingxian didn't know if she fell in love with Xiao Qian, but at least she was a little regretful. Why didn't she say yes to Xiao Qian when he pursued her? However, she just thought about it. At that time, Xiao Qian was also Cheng Minjing's fiancé. What was the matter if she got involved? Could she tell the Xin family that Cheng Minjing and the Cheng family were together with Xiao Qian? This kind of thing was not impossible at the level of aristocratic families, but the Xiao family in Songning was not qualified. The Xin family could marry any aristocratic family in Songning, which was already considered as marrying down. It was simply a fantasy to serve one husband together. Xin Jingxian shook her head. She gritted her teeth, held the edge of the reef with both hands and got on the island. Although she had not yet set foot in the ranks of warriors, she was born in an aristocratic family. Women in aristocratic families generally received training from warriors at a young age, but there was no requirement for strength. However, she was still better than ordinary people. The moment she jumped up, Xin Jingxian was exposed. Xiao Qian happened to raise his head to look at Xin Jingxian. He was also afraid that she would fall down again. Xiao Qian was ready to be taken advantage of again. However, he saw a beautiful spring. His thin underwear was soaked in seawater. Not only did it stick tightly to his body, but it also became vaguely transparent. Xiao Qian was a cultivator with a powerful six senses, so he could see as clearly as he could. Thus, Xiao Qian shamefully had another reaction. Flirting with his goddess had always been Xiao Qian's dream. But when this dream came true, Xiao Qian had a headache. How should he deal with his relationship with Xin Jingxian in the future? Will Xin Jingxian hate me even more after she calms down? Xin Jingxian climbed ashore and said to Xiao Qian, "All right, you should come up too. The seawater is too cold. I can't stand it. I'll wait for a while." If Xiao Qian went up now and his body's reaction was seen by Xin Jingxian, it would be embarrassing. Wait for a while? What? Give me your hand. I'll pull you up. The seawater is very cold. Xin Jingxian was a little confused. Don't catch a cold. What if you get sick on this deserted island? Xiao Qin couldn't express himself. Hurry up. Xin Jingxian reached out her hand. I'll come up myself. Xiao Qin couldn't let the goddess wait for him. He grabbed the shark's tail with both hands and swung it ashore. The shark was thrown onto the island by him. Then Xiao Qin kicked off the water with both of his feet. He pushed against the cliff with both of his hands and flew up to the island. As a result, Xiao Qin's adverse reaction was seen by Xin Jingxian. Xin Jingxian immediately understood why Xiao Qin was so shy before. She couldn't help but blush. She couldn't help but feel a little happy in her heart. Xiao Qin still likes me. Xin Jingxian didn't know why she was happy. If there was such a guy who acted like a hooligan in front of her in the past, she would have turned around and left. But when she saw Xiao Qin, she was very concerned. Are you cold? The wind is strong here. Let's find a place to hide from the wind and dry our clothes? And it's almost evening. Let's find a place to settle down first. I'll go get some firewood and food. Xiao Qin said to Xin Jingxian. These were things that Xin Jingxian neglected, but Xiao Qin didn't forget. This made Xin Jingxian suddenly have a very satisfying feeling of dependence. She felt that as long as she was with Xiao Qin on this island, she wouldn't be afraid of anything. The deserted island wasn't very big. There were a few caves on the cliff, but some had been occupied by seabirds. Only one was slightly cleaner. Xiao Qin walked in and checked. After he found that there was no danger, he let Xin Jingxian come in. Jingxian, wait for me here. I'll be back soon. And then I'll wait for you here. Xin Jingxian was really tired. She sat on the ground and hugged her legs. She looked at Xiao Qin's side profile with the light of the setting sun. He was very determined and handsome. This was a very stylish guy. Of course, Xin Jingxian didn't notice this before. Sometimes one's mentality would affect one's vision. One would like what they liked and dislike what they didn't like. At this moment, Xin Jingxian was like a primitive woman waiting for her husband to go hunting. She looked forward to it, missed it, and felt a little happy. Xiao Qin nodded. He didn't notice Xin Jingxuan's mood. He just wanted to get through this night and restore his strength. Tomorrow he would take Xin Jingxian to swim back. The area of the island wasn't very big. Xiao Qin walked around and found that there were only coconut trees and an unknown tree. However, the other tree didn't have any fruit. Xiao Qin didn't care what tree it was. Xiao Qin first climbed up the coconut tree and plucked some coconuts. Then he picked up some withered branches that had fallen from the trees nearby. After that, he returned to the cave and handed the coconuts to Xin Jingxian. After hesitating for a moment, Xiao Qin still injected a trace of yuan qi into the coconut. After Xiao Qin injected yuan qi into the food, it was not only delicious, but it also had a trace of immortal fruit effect. Even if Xin Jingxian didn't cultivate, it was still good for replenishing her strength. Jingxian, you eat a little first. I'll start a fire. Dry your clothes. Xiao Qin said. I'll go to the beach to deal with the shark meat. I'll roast a few pieces for you to eat to replenish your strength. There's no need to trouble yourself, right? Xin Jingxian took the coconut. She didn't eat it immediately. Instead, she said to Xiao Qin, it's very late. I can't eat too much. However, as soon as she finished speaking, Xin Jingxuan's stomach began to growl. After being tossed around for almost a day, Xin Jingxian only had breakfast in the morning. It was almost dark. I'll be back soon. Xiao Qin smiled and started a fire. Drilling wood to start a fire was too weak. Xiao Qin didn't have the patience to do that. He took advantage of Xin Jingxuan's inattention and used yuan qi to turn it into a flame and ignited the branches. How did you light the fire? Xin Jingxian was just wandering around and saw that Xiao Qin had already lit the fire. Lighter. Xiao Qin said casually and then stood up. He was afraid that Xin Jingxian would ask more, so he turned around and left the cave. I'm going to deal with the shark. It was the first time for Xiao Qin to deal with a shark, but Xiao Qin didn't study it much. Near the reef by the sea, he punched it and smashed the rock into a few pieces. He randomly found a sharp one and began to cut off a piece of meat from the shark. Then he returned to the cave again. Xin Jingxian sat beside the fire, but she didn't eat the coconut. When she saw Xiao Qin coming back, she was immediately happy. Xiao Qin, you're back. Xiao Qin nodded and saw that there were still coconuts on the ground. He asked curiously, why aren't you eating? I'll wait for you to eat together. It's not good for me to eat alone while you're busy. Xin Jingxian shook her head. I'll help you open it. Xiao Qin picked up a coconut and pierced a hole with a sharp rock. He handed it to Xin Jingxian and said, Drink the coconut juice first, then open it and eat the flesh. Then, do you eat it too? Shen Jingxian hesitated and said. I'll roast the meat first. Xiao Chen waved his hand and put the shark meat on the fire with a thick branch and roasted it. There was no seasoning at sea, but Xiao Chen injected a trace of primordial energy. With the salty taste of the seawater, it should be delicious. Shen Jingxian picked up the coconut and carefully drank the coconut juice inside. She suddenly felt that it was delicious. This was the best coconut juice she had ever drunk since she was a child. She had drunk fresh coconut juice before, but it wasn't as good as this. Was it because she was thirsty? Shen Jingxian drank the coconut juice in one gulp, but she still wanted more. She wanted to open the coconut shell, but the coconut shell was too hard. She couldn't open it even after peeling twice. Xiao Chen kept looking at Shen Jingxian from the corner of his eyes, so he reached out and said, Come, I'll help you open it. Shen Jingxian gave the coconut shell to Xiao Chen with some embarrassment. Xiao Chen easily broke the coconut shell into 2 halves, and then handed one half to Shen Jingxian. He put the other half in his mouth and chewed on it. Xiao Chen was also hungry. Although he was a cultivator, he was far from the point where he didn't need to eat. Shen Jingxian saw that Xiao Chen was also eating. She was slightly surprised. That was the coconut that she had drunk from. Xiao Chen ate it just like that. Wasn't it equivalent to the two of them kissing indirectly? Thinking of this, Shen Jingxian was a little shy, but she suddenly remembered what happened in the sea. The real kiss had been accepted, so what if it was indirect? So, Shen Jingxian took half of the coconut and learned to eat it like Xiao Chen. The coconut meat was soft and delicious. Shen Jingxian quickly ate it, but she found that Xiao Chen hadn't finished eating yet. She suddenly felt embarrassed. Wait, the roasted shark is almost ready. Xiao Chen didn't feel anything. He ate a little slower because he was roasting the shark meat. He quickly finished the remaining coconut meat, picked up another coconut, smashed it and handed it to Shen Jingxian. I have enough. You should drink some too. Shen Jingxian said, It's delicious. Oh, there's a lot. Xiao Chen put it next to Shen Jingxian, picked up another coconut, smashed it and said, If it's not enough, I'll pick more. There's nothing else on this island, but there are plenty of coconuts. Chapter 207. The shark meat was quickly roasted and exuded a very tempting meat fragrance. Xiao Chen used a stone to cut off a circle of roasted shark meat. He placed it on a clean coconut leaf and handed it to Shen Jingxian. Okay, you can eat. You eat too. Although Shen Jingxian was drooling, she still wanted to act like a lady in front of Xiao Chen. I'll eat later. Xiao Chen said, There's nothing on this island. I can only make these for you. You can come to the villa to play with Miss one day. I'll make you something I'm good at. Xiao Chen just said it casually. It was unknown if Goddess Jingxian would come, but what Xiao Chen didn't expect was that Shen Jingxian actually said, Okay. Shark meat was actually not very delicious. Otherwise, why would many fishermen just cut off the shark's fins and throw the shark back into the sea? Obviously, it was because shark meat could not be sold at a good price. However, this was also a kind of waste and cruelty. It was practical to catch sharks, but if the shark's fins were cut off and thrown back, the shark could only fend for itself in the sea. Of course, whether shark meat was delicious or not depended on the person who cooked it. The shark meat that was injected with primordial energy by Xiao Chen was quite delicious. Shen Jingxian took a small bite and was immediately surprised. Shark meat was delicious. It was crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. It was not that she had never eaten shark meat before, but the meat was very rough and the taste was very bad. It was completely different from the taste she was eating now. Why are the coconut and shark meat so delicious today? Could it be that I'm too hungry? For some reason, a sentence suddenly appeared in Shen Jingxuan's mind. Everything is delicious when I'm with you. It doesn't matter what I eat, it matters who I eat with. Xiao Chen didn't know that Shen Jingxian had so many thoughts. The shark meat and coconut were injected with primordial energy. How could they not be delicious? Soon, the remaining shark meat was roasted. Xiao Chen and Shen Jingxian sat in front of each other and had a picnic. It was a unique flavor. Qin Jinping was sent back by Lin Xiao and Li Shanning, but they didn't send him to the shore. He swam back the remaining distance by himself. Qing Minjing and Jin Beibei were quite anxious on the shore. Xiao Qin and his companions had been gone for more than half a day and still hadn't come back by dusk. Qing Minjing was a bit anxious. Even Jin Beibei, who had always been confident, was a bit worried. In her eyes, although Xiao Qin was very powerful, the sea was full of dangers and unknowns, and he still hadn't returned after so long. He tried calling her a few times but the call did not go through. Clearly there was no signal in the sea. Finally he saw Qin Jinping coming back but he was swimming. He couldn't help but feel a little strange. "Hey little shed, where's my cousin-in-law?" Jean Bebe ran over and asked. "Oh no. We met a shark on the sea and the boat was overturned. Xiaoqin and Jingxian both fell into the sea. We were separated from each other. I finally swam back." Qin Jinping said with a sad face, "What should we do? What should we do? Let's ask the warrior guild for help, shall we?" Cheng Minjing's face turned pale immediately. Xiaoqin and Qin Jingxian both fell into the sea? And they met a shark? Cheng Minjing didn't know whether Xiaoqin could swim or not, but she was sure that Qin Jingxian couldn't. Thinking that Qin Jingxian and Xiaoqin might have already been eaten by the fish, Cheng Minjing's heart felt as if it had been ruthlessly smashed by a hammer. All the strength in her body was drained, and she directly went limp on the beach. Jean Bebe was also dumbfounded. She didn't expect that her cousin-in-law, whom she had always thought was awesome, also fell into the sea. What should we do? According to the time when Qin Jinping came back from swimming, Xiaoqin and Qin Jingxian had been in the sea for a long time. Could they still be saved? Even if the people of the warrior guild helped them, it was absolutely impossible for them to survive. Neither of them was a warrior. Facing a shark, they had no chance to fight back at all. "Menjing, I'm sorry for your loss. This is a natural disaster which is beyond our control." Chao Yuliang was a little confused. Why did Qin Jinping kill Qin Jingxian and come back from swimming? However, it was not appropriate for him to ask her face to face, so he came over and comforted her. How could this happen? Cheng Minjing was a little absent-minded. Thinking of Xiaoqin and Qin Jingxian, she felt very sad. Both of them were very important to her, but they lost them at this moment. Thinking of Xiaoqin, although this fiancé had never fulfilled his duty as a fiancé, during the days when she lived with him, Xiaoqin gave Cheng Minjing a strange feeling. This person was not so bad or annoying. Cheng Minjing felt that she got along well with Xiaoqin. She couldn't accept losing him like this. She had been used to the days when Xiaoqin was in the villa and Xiaoqin as a servant. "Cousin Minjing, don't worry. Don't give up. I don't think there will be a problem with my cousin-in-law." Jean Bebe suddenly remembered that the gas tank of the car was out of gas. She was immediately filled with hope again. "My cousin-in-law is a transformer. Chances are that he can turn into a fishing boat. Not only can he catch whales, he can also bring Sister Jingxian back." Chao Yuliang immediately felt like laughing. Jean Bebe's theory was too hilarious. Xiaoqin could turn into a fishing boat? Was he dreaming about the solar system? Besides, Xiaoqin was a piece of garbage. Not to mention that he could not swim. Even if he could not swim back. "Yes, I know Xiaoqin. He likes Qin Jingxian. Chances are that he will do anything when he loses his temper in front of the goddess." Chao Yuliang said so on the surface despite his scorn in his heart. "Wrong. He is trying to catch sharks for Bebe to eat." Jean Bebe, however, said, "Alright Bebe, that's enough. Would they have been in danger if you hadn't wanted to eat sharks?" Cheng Minjing waved her hands indicating that Jean Bebe should stop talking. "Let's call the Shin family and the Xiao family first." "I'll call the Xiao family. Qin Jinping, you call the Shin family." "All right." Qin Jinping sighed and was about to make the call. "Let's not call them yet, shall we? It's not a good idea to call them when everything is not confirmed yet, is it?" Chao Yuliang was afraid that the incident would spread out and he and Qin Jinping would be exposed. After the incident was over and the dead could not testify and the evidence was gone, it would be fine to inform the Shin family and the Xiao family by then. "Then, let's wait a little longer." Qin Jinping nodded hurriedly. He listened to Chao Yuliang and Chao Yuliang must have a point. All right. Cheng Minjing was actually somewhat hopeful, hoping that Xiaoqin and Qin Jingxian would be fine. Because of the incident, they were all silent. Chao Yuliang made a fire and roasted some barbecue that he had brought. Cheng Minjing and Jean Bebe ate a little and went to rest in the tent. Chao Yuliang finally had a chance to be alone with Qin Jinping. After returning to their tent, Chao Yuliang asked with a frown, "What happened? How did things turn out like this? Did Qin Jingxian die too?" "Brother Liang, there was an accident. Here's what happened." As he spoke, Qin Jinping told Chao Yuliang about the situation at that time. "I see. The shark appeared at the right time." Chao Yuliang frowned. "But according to what you said, Xiaoqin didn't mean to hurt you. He likes Qin Jingxian, so it's impossible for him to kill Qin Jingxian. It's all because of Li Shaning's poor skills. But now they probably can't survive. We'd better think about how to explain this matter. It's easy to explain. Li Shaning and Lin Chao have run away. We just need to keep our mouths shut, Qin Jinping said. As long as you don't talk nonsense here. Chao Yuliang said, but Xin Jingxian is dead. Your family will probably have some conflicts with the Xin family. You have to be prepared in advance. Although it's not your fault, you'll be a problem if you're alive. What should I do? Qin Jinping thought about it carefully. It was true. He killed the Xin family Xin Jingxian, but he was fine. How could the Xin family not blame him? Even if they didn't blame Qin Jinping, they would vent their anger on him, right? This made Qin Jinping think of the conflict between the Xiao family and the Qing family. Wasn't it the same for Xiao Chen's father, Xiao Feng, and Qing Minjing's uncle, Qing Zhongfan? The Qing family vented their anger on the Xiao family. Thinking of this, Qin Jinping was very nervous. Will I be kicked out of the Qin family? Chao Yuliang was a little speechless. Qin Jingquan is dead. If you are kicked out, won't the Qin family have no descendants? Do you think you're a dispensable piece of trash like Xiao Qin? That's true. Qin Jinping was relieved after listening. The night on the isolated island was cold, but there was a fire made by Xiao Qin in the cave. The two of them didn't feel cold. However, Xin Jingxian couldn't sleep. Too many things happened today. It overturned her nearly 18 years of life. Xiao Qin, are you asleep? Asked Xin Jingxian. No. Xiao Qin was cultivating. He basically didn't need to sleep. Then, let's talk. I can't sleep. Xin Jingxian said, I'm not used to the sudden change of environment. Okay. Xiao Qin nodded. What do you want to say? Xiao Qin, have you been hiding your strength in the past? Are you pretending to be weak to eat the tiger? Xin Jingxian asked curiously, you are different from when you were in first high school. If I wasn't sure that you are really you now, I would have thought that you are a different person. People always change, don't they? Xiao Qin looked up at the stars outside the cave inside. If I say that I started cultivating after I was kicked out of the Xiao family, would you believe me? Of course not. The 5th level of inner force can't be cultivated overnight. Xin Jingxian rolled her eyes at Xiao Qin. Do you think I'm easy to fool? That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.